Chapter 10:14. Favoring one over another was a taboo, so Tang Zheng naturally had to do his best to remedy the situation. Luckily, he had a lot of jewels, so he took out a few and gave them to everyone, appeasing the crowd, and pouted unhappily, but there was nothing she could do. However, she kept comforting herself that he was the first to give her a present, and the others were just supplementary gifts. Only then was she satisfied and happy. Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy once again went to the backyard and activated the teleportation circle. The two of them, Xiao Bai and the Scarlet Lunar Beast, disappeared into thin air. Luckily, the walls of the backyard were tall and there were big trees blocking the view, so no one saw this scene. Otherwise, they would have been scared out of their wits. The scene in front of them changed, and they appeared on an island. The sea breeze blew, making them feel relaxed and happy. The Empyrean Fairy looked around and said, "This is your base?" As soon as she finished speaking, a huge black shadow flew over from the sky and dove down. The crackling sound of lightning could be heard. Thundercloud Beast. The Empyrean Fairy looked up and recognized it. A ball of lightning suddenly formed in the sky, but when she saw who it was, the ball of lightning disappeared in the air. The Thundercloud Beast quickly shrank and flew to Tang Zheng's side and stopped. "Little Black, how are you?" Xiao Bai excitedly called out to the Thundercloud Beast, as if he was reuniting with an old friend. The Scarlet Lunar Beast growled in a low voice, full of hostility towards the Thundercloud Beast. "You can talk." The Thundercloud Beast looked at Xiao Bai in shock. "Of course. In the future, you can listen to my orders, just like little Yu. Little White swaggered as if he was giving orders. He was full of heroism and had the aura of a leader. The Thundercloud Beast looked at the Scarlet Lunar Beast and asked, "What is it?" "It's called Little Yu, the Scarlet Lunar Beast." Scarlet Lunar Beast. The Thundercloud Beast remembered this name for the first time. Looking at these little animals, the Empyrean Fairy joked, "Are you going to become a zoo?" Thundercloud Beast, Qiansui Gui, Red Moon Beast, and the mysterious Xiao Bai. "Hee, these are just a few animals. How is this a zoo?" As he spoke, the elder led the disciples of the witch tribe over quickly. Sensing the mana fluctuations here, he guessed that it must be the arrival of the Lord Emissary. "Greetings, Lord Envoy." Everyone bowed. "There's no need to be so polite. Elder, take us to the Holy Land." Tang Zheng went straight to the point. It had only been a few days, but the great emissary had returned and headed straight for the Holy Land. He had even brought along an outsider like the Empyrean Fairy. This had surprised the elders, and they could not help but speculate about the great emissary's true intentions. However, when he saw the Scarlet Lunar Beast, he could not help but gasp in shock. Although little Yu was small in size, the elder and the others recognized her at a glance. The elder hurriedly asked, "Lord Emissary, what is going on?" Tang Zheng waved his hand, indicating for everyone to calm down, and said, "I came here specifically for it. Let's talk about it after we get to the Holy Land." "Yes, Lord Emissary, please." The elder was uneasy. His gaze continued to sweep across little Yu's body, causing her to bare her teeth and stare fiercely at the elder. The Holy Land. The cultivators and the other disciples of the witch tribe had all been dismissed, leaving only Tang Zheng, the other two, and the three beasts. When they saw the crystal, Xiao Bai and little Yu were confused. They did not know the purpose of this trip, nor did they know that there was a Scarlet Lunar Beast sealed in it. The Empyrean Fairy also looked at the huge crystal curiously. The surging energy coming from it was so clear that it made her feel excited. With just one look, she could determine the value of this crystal. "Is it inside?" The Empyrean Fairy pointed at the crystal and asked. Tang Zheng nodded his head and confidently walked over. He placed both of his palms on the crystal and activated his martial arts, causing a surge of energy to flow from the crystal into his body. Immediately, the crystal gradually became transparent and a figure became clearer. The Empyrean Fairy looked at this scene in shock. When she saw the tall Scarlet Lunar Beast, her eyes lit up. It was indeed a genuine Scarlet Lunar Beast. Little Yu was originally absent-minded with her head lowered. However, When she saw the scarlet lunar beast in the crystal, her eyes immediately widened, and she stared at it in shock. Ah, there's a scarlet lunar beast in here too. Little Yu, it's the same kind as you. Xiaobai shouted in shock. Little Yu acted as if she did not hear him and walked towards the crystal. Xiaobai wanted to stop her, but was stopped by Tang Zheng in time. Everyone's eyes were glued to this scene. The elder's heart beat wildly. Where did the Lord Emissary find this strange beast? What would happen next? Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy did not know what would happen next, but they were looking forward to it. Time seemed to have stopped, and space seemed to have stopped. Little Yu walked in front of the crystal and extended her claws to touch the crystal. An ice-cold sensation came over, and its eyes changed in an instant. A strange color bloomed in its pupils. However, all of this ended very quickly. The light in little Yu's eyes gradually disappeared, replaced by disappointment. She put down her claws dejectedly. All of this was in vain. The sealed scarlet lunar beast did not change at all. Although both parties were of the same species, little Yu did not cause any reaction at all. Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy looked at each other and could not hide the disappointment in each other's eyes. They muttered, "It seems that we were too optimistic." There was no reaction or change at all. The Empyrean Fairy sighed and shook her head. The elder saw this and asked curiously, "Lord Emissary, what is going on?" "Its name is the Scarlet Lunar Beast. It is a creature from the outer sky. We want to know about the outer sky from them, but little Yu does not know anything. So, we want to see if something will happen when it meets its kind. Then, it can give us some information," Tang Zheng said. The elder suddenly understood. He looked at the two scarlet lunar beasts and said, "It seems that this method will not work." Xiaobai heard this and said disapprovingly, "Master, what's so difficult about this? Let me help you break this thing." Just as he finished speaking, a white figure leaped out. With a bang, a small claw hit the crystal. With a rumbling sound, the crystal shook violently, but did not shatter. Xiaobai looked at this scene in disbelief. It knew the power of this attack very well, but it could not hurt the crystal at all. "Damn it! Xiaobai, don't mess around." Tang Zheng tried to stop it, but before he could finish, his eyes widened. He looked at the crystal in disbelief and saw the scarlet lunar beast move. Its eyes shone brightly as it tried to touch Xiaobai. The scarlet lunar beast had never moved before. It was as if it was a statue. This was the first time. "Ah, it's alive." Xiaobai was not afraid. Instead, he was surprised to see the scarlet lunar beast's reaction. However, the scarlet lunar beast could not really touch Xiaobai because of the crystal. Its eyes were filled with surprise and respect as it stared at Xiaobai. Xiaobai also stared at it with his round eyes. The scarlet lunar beast gradually lowered its head under Xiaobai's gaze. In the end, it even crawled on the ground with its front legs as if it was kowtowing. Xiaobai looked at the scene blankly. He turned his head and asked Tang Zheng, "Master, what is it doing?" Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy were shocked. Only the elder's reaction was less. In his mind, Xiaobai was the sorcerer tribe's sacred beast and had a noble status. It was only right for the scarlet lunar beast to kowtow to him. However, Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy thought more. The scarlet lunar beast was not an ordinary creature. It was a creature from beyond the heavens. Why would it kowtow to a sorcerer tribe's sacred beast in the human world? There were too many unsolved mysteries. Even little Yu could not trigger its reaction. However, Xiaobai's casual actions could trigger such a huge reaction from it. It was too bizarre. Tang Zheng rushed over and asked, "Xiaobai, try to recall. Do you remember its existence?" Xiaobai tilted his head. He did not seem to understand what Tang Zheng meant. After thinking for a long time, he shook his head blankly. "No, I have never seen it before." "Master, why is it moving?" "It was alive in the first place. I used to think that it couldn't move, but now it seems that it disdains to move." Even little Yu couldn't elicit a reaction from it. "On the contrary, you were a pleasant surprise." "Then what is it doing?" Xiaobai asked suspiciously. Tang Zheng looked deeply at the scarlet lunar beast. He realized that it was still crawling with its head on its front legs. It was very respectful. He said thoughtfully, "It is kowtowing to you." It seems that it knows you. I have never seen it before. How it know me? Xiaobai was confused. He could not figure out the complicated inside story. It does not know you. However, it definitely knows your kind. Oh, I see. Master, didn't you always want to know my origin? Won't everything be revealed if you let it out? Tang Jing shook his head, his expression darkened, and said, It's not as easy as you say. You tried it just now. This spar is very sturdy. It can't be broken at all. You can only let it out after absorbing all the energy of this spar. Xiaobai was very disappointed. That is so troublesome. Doesn't that mean we won't be able to find the answer for now? Tang Jing laughed instead. Even so, we are still one step closer to the answer. This Scarlet Moon beast knows your origin. So as long as we work hard to absorb all the energy in this crystal, won't everything come to light? Xiaobai's eyes lit up. He nodded and said, Master's right. Xiaobai also wants to know his origin. Tang Jing, I have an idea. Suddenly, the Empyrean fairy said. Tang Jing turned his head. What idea? Since this Scarlet Lunar Beast and Xianyin can seal themselves, you can release Xianyin and see if they will react to each other. Tang Jing's eyes flashed. Smart. This was a great idea. Since they both came from the sky beyond heaven and were still alive, he wondered how they would react to each other. Therefore, he used his mind to summon the crystal that sealed Xianyin. The Scarlet Lunar Beast seemed to have sensed something. It raised its head and looked at the crystal in front of it. Chapter 10:15. Seeing the Scarlet Lunar Beast raise its head to look at him, Tang Jing's lips curled up into a smile. He placed both of his hands on the crystal, and a surge of energy immediately entered his body. The crystal turned transparent, and Xuanin's beautiful figure immediately appeared. The Scarlet Lunar Beast's eyes immediately widened. It bared its teeth, and its eyes were burning with fire, as if it had seen its nemesis. Everyone was shocked by this scene. The human and beast obviously knew each other, and they seemed to be enemies. Since the Scarlet Lunar Beast hated Xianyin so much, what kind of grudge did they have? The Scarlet Lunar Beast kept hitting the crystal with its claws. However, it was useless as it could not break the seal of the crystal. Tang Jing frowned. The Scarlet Lunar Beast could not break the crystal, but Xianyin could. The two of them looked similar, but there was a huge difference. Why was that? Xianyin opened her eyes and looked at the Scarlet Lunar Beast in shock. Her gaze was complicated. Tang Jing looked at her and said, Xianyin, why don't we come out and have a chat? What is your relationship with the Scarlet Lunar Beast? Xianyin looked at him as if to say, Don't treat me like a fool. Obviously, she would not come out. Do you want to be a coward? You are a consecrator of the Azure Dragon Palace, and you are from the sky beyond heaven. Don't you think it's embarrassing? Tang Jing tried to provoke her to come out. However, all of this was futile. It had no effect at all. Master, who is she? Xiaobai asked as it was the first time he saw Xianyin. Xianyin's gaze fell on Xiaobai, but she did not have much a reaction. She was completely different from the Scarlet Lunar Beast. This made Tang Jing very confused. Xianyin and the Scarlet Lunar Beast were both from the sky beyond heaven. However, the Scarlet Lunar Beast knew Xiaobai. Why couldn't Xianyin recognize him? Tang Jing shook his head, feeling somewhat disappointed. Now, he could confirm that Xianyin and the Scarlet Lunar Beast knew each other, and there was quite a bit of enmity between them. As for the specific details, only those involved would know. Seeing that the Red Lunar Beast was getting more and more irritable, and its eyes were about to spit fire, Tang Jing said to Xianyin, Since you want to be a coward, I'll let you be. With a wave of his hand, Xianyin was sucked back into Sumeru world. Only then did the Scarlet Moon Beast calm down. Its anger slowly subsided. However, it still looked at Tang Jing with a complicated expression. It was as if it was asking him to release it quickly. You want to come out? I don't have a better idea. You can only regain your freedom after absorbing all the energy in this crystal, Tang Jing said helplessly as he knew what the Red Lunar Beast was thinking. Initially, he was worried that the Red Lunar Beast would be in trouble after it was freed. However, looking at its attitude toward Xiaobai, his worries were obviously unnecessary. If Xiaobai could intimidate the Red Lunar Beast, Then releasing it would solve a lot of mysteries. I'll stay and cultivate. The Empyrean fairy looked at Tang Zheng and immediately made a decision. Now that her cultivation was the highest, she would be able to absorb the energy in the crystal at the fastest speed. Tang Zheng did not hesitate and nodded in agreement. Xiaobai, do you want to go back with me or stay here? Tang Zheng asked. Xiaobai grabbed little Yu Yu and pulled it back from the crystal, saying, Master, of course I'll go back with you. The city is much more fun than this island. Little Black, you can stay here and protect everyone. You can also absorb the energy in this crystal to cultivate. The Thundercloud Beast's eyes lit up and asked, Really? Of course. The Thundercloud Beast jumped up excitedly. Xiaobai curled his lips and said, What's there to be happy about? Xiaobai's cultivation was different from other beasts. It almost did not need to eat, and every time it was about to break through, it would hibernate. It looked down on the crystal, but the Thundercloud Beast saw it as a treasure. Seeing that Xiaobai was about to leave, the Red Lunar Beast bowed to Xiaobai as if it was sending it off. Xiaobai did not appreciate it at all and did not even turn back. It rode on little Yu Yu and followed Tang Zheng as they left. On the other hand, little Yu Yu kept looking back as if it was thinking about something. After returning home from the teleportation array, and walked towards Tang Zheng in front of everyone and sat beside him gracefully. Her eyes were like limpid autumn water as she looked at him. Tang Zheng asked, What's the matter? And smiled and said, After you left, I thought about it for a long time and finally found a problem. What problem? Tang Zheng looked at her suspiciously. You gave out so many pieces of jewelry at once, and I did some research. Those pieces of jewelry are definitely not modern items, but ancient items. You definitely have more than that, right? And looked as if she had seen through everything. Tang Zheng smacked his lips. He had to admit that a woman's intuition was sometimes frighteningly accurate. However, he did not figure out his true intentions and asked, So what if I did? And so what if I didn't? And said confidently, I knew you had more than that. You really did have a lot of jewelry. I won't ask where you got them, but what do you plan to do with them? Seeing that she had guessed it, Tang Zheng did not deny it and said, I haven't thought about it yet. I have a good idea. Tang Zheng looked at her quietly. She seemed to be encouraged and said impatiently, I'll help you deal with these jewelry. They shouldn't be covered in dust and should shine with their own brilliance. Tang Zheng looked at her in surprise. As a princess of a country, how could she want to do this? And thought that he did not believe her. So she quickly took out a set of certificates and said, I have specially studied. Look, this is the top international jewelry appraisal qualification certificate. And this is the EMBI certificate that I minored in when I was in school. I can really help you with this matter. Looking at the certificates, Tang Zheng did not doubt their authenticity. She disdained to fake, but he did not expect her to be so enthusiastic about this matter. He did not know An's thoughts, and never believed in the principle of being a good wife. She was a typical Western woman. She believed that a woman needed her own charm and career. Only by making herself more outstanding could she gain the favor of a man, especially an outstanding man. She was already outstanding enough, but she still thought that compared to Tang Zheng, she was a bit lacking, especially after she took off the princess's clothing. So she must have her own career. This time, she just happened to come across these jewelry, so she had this idea. Moreover, in this way, she could openly spend more time with Tang Zheng. Other women would have nothing to say and could not stop it. Wouldn't her opportunity come? She thought that God had heard her prayer and given her such a good opportunity. How could she just watch it slip through her hands? Why don't you say something? Do you agree? And looked at Tang Zheng affectionately and asked. Her eyes seemed to be able to speak. If an ordinary person was looked at by the princess like this, their soul would have flown away. Tang Zheng, on the other hand, had a strong immunity and began to ponder. He had enough jewelry. So much jewelry was a large sum of money. His business was so wide, and there were too many places where he needed money. So these jewelry definitely could not be left idle. They had to be sold. He had not thought of a specific way to implement it at the moment. Originally, he was going to hand it over to Mu Hanyin, but now she was in Europe and couldn't get away. It just so happened that and had this suggestion. He couldn't help but be a little moved. He didn't doubt Anne's ability at all. He just asked, "What, there are a lot of jewelry? Can you sell them all? I've seen too much jewelry since I was a child. How much can you have? I have this confidence. No matter how much you have, I can sell it at high price." Anne was full of confidence. Tang Jing secretly nodded. What she said was reasonable. After all, she was a princess. What kind of big scene had she not seen? How many jewelry did she have? "Well, I'll leave this matter to you." Tang Jing nodded and said. Anne's excitement was overflowing. She hurriedly expressed her position. "Your decision is very wise. Where's the jewelry? Take them all out. I want to properly classify them. Let me tell you, this is a big field of knowledge. Ordinary people can't do it at all." Tang Jing nodded in agreement. He looked around and saw that everyone else looked like curious babies. He said, "It's not suitable to put them in the hall. Let's go to the basement. There's enough space there." And said in her heart that he was making a mountain out of a molehill. It was just jewelry. It wasn't anything big. How could it not fit here? However, she just laughed it off and went to the basement with Tang Jing. The others also curiously followed. Lu Qingmei had seen the number of jewelry, so when she saw Anne's eager look, the corner of her mouth hooked up into a meaningful smile, and probably wouldn't have thought of the huge number of jewelry. She had to admit that when she first saw those treasure chests, it was difficult to hide the stormy waves in her heart. "Everyone stand a little further away. Give me some space." Tang Jing motioned for everyone to step back and said, and curled her lips, saying in her heart that he was deliberately mystifying. However, she obeyed and retreated to the wall. Tang Jing smiled at everyone. With a thought, he waved his hand forward. Voila! It was as if it was raining. The pitter-patter of rain could be heard. In the blink of an eye, a small mountain appeared in front of them. It was just that it was made up of jewelry. Tang Jing didn't realize at first that there was a huge amount of jewelry. It was only when he organized it that he realized that there were so many treasures in these treasure chests. Moreover, even though they were at the bottom of the sea, they were still well preserved. The treasure chests were tightly sealed. Only the few treasure chests that were destroyed in the battle spilled out. However, Tang Jing timely put them in a Sumeru world, so they weren't too damaged. In an instant, the light of the jewels completely covered the light above their heads. It was as if there was an additional sun. The light was dazzling and too much for the eyes to take in. Annie was dumbfounded as her eyes blankly stared at the mountain of treasures. She never would have thought that Tang Jing would have so many jewels. Even if she was a princess of the imperial family, she had never seen so many jewels. Chapter 10:16. Jewels were eye-catching and would also steal people's hearts. Especially women, their attractiveness was boundless. Other than Lu Qingmei, Fang Shishir and Wu's reactions were more or less the same. Even Nan Nan, the little girl, actually started to make a big fuss. All of a sudden, she pounced towards the treasure mountain and excitedly shouted, "Wow, so beautiful," and finally reacted as if she had awoken from a dream. She moved her gaze away with difficulty and stared blankly at Tang Jing. She swallowed her saliva and asked, "These are your jewels?" Tang Jing blankly nodded, completely unaware of the impact this had on them, and said, "That's right. These are my jewels. This isn't a lot, right?" And resisted the urge to roll her eyes as a voice in her heart shouted, "If this isn't a lot, then what is? With your ability, handling these jewels shouldn't be a problem, right?" Tang Jing asked, and quivered and hesitated for a moment before firmly nodding her head. Of course, there's no problem. Although this exceeded her expectations, it was interesting to have a challenge. How could she, princess, and be afraid of a challenge? She had already conquered countless storms and waves. She would definitely be able to conquer this treasure mountain. Definitely, she firmly repeated in her heart. But looking at this treasure mountain, a trace of worry flashed across her brows. "Don't force yourself." Tang Jing sensed her strangeness and reminded her, and took a deep breath and resolutely said, "I won't force myself at all. I will definitely let you see my ability." Tang Jing faintly smiled. Then I will wait and see. What are you going to do with them? And muttered to herself for a moment before mysteriously saying, Huaxia has an old saying, mountains have their own plans. Tang Jing shrugged his shoulders and did not ask any more questions. But if there is a time when I need your help in the future, you must not refuse. After all, with so many jewels, I am working for you. And took the initiative to take precautions and find an excuse for their frequent contact in the future. Tang Jing gladly agreed. If Yiding Dang was here, she would definitely object loudly, but unfortunately, she was pulled back by Feng Xinyan. Feng Shi, Wu, and Lu Qingmei were not as loud as Yiding Dang, so they did not object. Once and accepted this task, she was fully loaded. She was so busy that she didn't have much free time to pester Tang Jing. He was happy with the peace and quiet. Linger's concert was approaching, and she had already gone to rehearse. The other women in the family were busy with their careers, while the rest of them were focused on cultivation. During this time, Professor Qi Shaowen called to ask about the red lunar beast. Tang Jing gave him a perfunctory answer. Before the truth was revealed, he did not want too many ordinary people to know about it. Otherwise, it would not do him any good. Seeing that school was about to start, Tang Jing was also engrossed in his cultivation. His cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. After reaching rank 4 yuanying, he gradually consolidated his cultivation, especially after absorbing the energy from the crystals in the summer world. However, he could not absorb all the crystals that sealed Xianin for the time being. With this, Qi was relieved. He had been worried that his heart's blood would be completely absorbed by Tang Jing. If that happened, he would not be able to suppress the inner demons and would be in great danger. In fact, Tang Jing knew this very well. That was why he stopped after absorbing a certain amount of heart's blood. He only absorbed a little occasionally to scare Qi Yu and intimidate Qi Yu and the inner demons. In the past, the two of them used to quarrel with each other. Recently, they seemed to have a tacit understanding. Tang Jing was not used to this. In fact, they were mainly shocked by the trip to the bottom of the sea and the Scarlet Moon Beast. This was something they had never known before. In ancient times, they had always wanted to explore the outer heavens, but they could not. They never thought that as time passed, the outer heavens would sneak into the human world, and even all the cultivators in the human world would be expelled to the outer heavens. Especially the latter, they could not do it with their ability. How did Nura do it? They gradually figured out a little. Nura had received help from Xianin, which meant that all of this was a conspiracy of the outer heavens. That was why Nura could have such ability. After the cultivators of the human world were expelled to the outer heavens, they must have had a hard time. Otherwise, the Devil Clan would not be so eager to return to the human world. Now, the Scarlet Moon Beast was involved. The Scarlet Moon Beast had a grudge with Xianin. What kind of grudge was it? Why did the Scarlet Moon Beast come to the human world? What were they for? What happened in the sea back then? There were too many unknown secrets in this. He had to unravel these secrets in order to perhaps see through the clouds and see the essence and truth of the matter. To the two of them, this was a huge blow because they were originally high and mighty, insufferably arrogant. Now it seemed that they were frogs at the bottom of a well. The enemy was not only the enemy of this world, but also the enemy from the unknown world of the outer heavens. Everything was confusing, causing them to fall into deep thought. Where should they go in the future? Master, I haven't seen the 5-clawed golden dragon for a long time. I want to see it, is that okay? Xiaobai jumped onto Tang Jing's body and asked. Tang Jing withdrew from his cultivation state and looked at the dark sky outside the window. Why do you want to see it? After he branded the 5-clawed golden dragon with his soul imprint and took it for his own use, Tang Jing never went to see it again. It was said that the country was still digging into the palace, as if they would not stop until they found the 5-clawed golden dragon. Tang Jing had long controlled the heaven and earth soul suppressing formation. Without his permission, no one could dig out the formation's core, so naturally they would not be able to see the 5-clawed golden dragon. Therefore, he was not worried about the country's actions. He could imagine that after the 5-clawed golden dragon was subdued, although it did not say anything, the resentment in its heart was definitely not small. After being locked in that space for a long time, its hostility would definitely increase. Even if Xiao Bai suggested to see it, it could be done. It could also be considered as seeing its recent situation. One was a big stick and one was a sweet date. The five-clawed golden dragon liked Xiao Bai very much, so it could let them see it. "Master, I beg you." Xiao Bai clasped its claws together as if it was cupping its hands, looking very pitiful. Tang Zheng could not help but laugh. "Don't pretend to be pitiful with me. I promise you, Master is the best." Xiao Bai was incomparably excited. It jumped onto little Yu Yu's back and said eagerly, "Little Yu Yu, today I will take you to see a big guy. It is much bigger than us. It is very fierce, but you don't have to be afraid of it. With me here, it can't hurt you." Little Yu Yu looked at it blankly. "Let's go. It's dark, no one will find out." Tang Zheng got up and disappeared into the darkness with the two strange beasts. Their speed was very fast, leaving only afterimages in the night. Then, they quietly passed through the layers of guards outside the Imperial City. After a long time without any gains, the Imperial City's defense had weakened a lot. The people were very dissatisfied with the official blockade of the Imperial City. This was one less tourist attraction. However, the people of Huaxia were the most forgetful and kind. After a series of protests and complaints, they focused on their daily lives. Their attention was consciously diverted to other areas by the officials. Therefore, although the huge construction banner was a very far-fetched excuse, the people chose to accept it in the end. Although it was night, the Imperial City was still brightly lit. Unlike before, the Imperial City had now become a huge construction site. It was dug and riddled with holes. It was difficult to have the majesty of the royal family from before. Tang Zheng couldn't help but sigh when he saw it. The country had really put in a lot of effort for the five-clawed golden dragon. This imperial palace would probably be hollowed out. This classic building complex that had stood for hundreds of years and endured countless storms would be destroyed at any time. Sighing with emotion on a whim, Tang Zheng used an illusion to smoothly enter the formation under the watchful eyes of everyone, but no one could see them. The five-clawed golden dragon snorted. It was like a clap of thunder exploding in their ears. Then, it moved its body, causing the chains made of 9 nether black iron to make clanking sounds. Then it stared at them with its 2 huge eyes, looking down at them from above. 5 claws. Just as Tang Zheng opened his mouth, before he could finish speaking, he saw the five-clawed golden dragon's eyes widen, and its raging anger ignited. Tang Zheng felt a chill. Could it be that the five-clawed golden dragon was going to rebel? He quickly activated his mental cultivation method and prepared to use the soul brand to make the five-clawed golden dragon restrain itself a little. However, he saw that its eyes were not staring at him, but directly at little Yu Yu. It roared angrily. "It's you again, I'm going to kill you." The huge dragon head swooped down, bringing with it a strong gust of wind. The dragon opened its mouth wide and bit towards little Yu Yu, as if it was an irreconcilable enemy. Tang Zheng was stunned by this scene. What was the origin of this scarlet lunar beast? Why did everyone have such a big reaction when they saw it? Even the five-clawed golden dragon, who had always thought highly of itself, had such a reaction. Of course, he could not let the five-clawed golden dragon swallow little Yu Yu. However, Xiao Bai's reaction was faster than his. It stepped forward and flew up from little Yu Yu's back. A second before little Yu Yu's hair stood on end, it turned into a cannon and shot towards the five-clawed golden dragon. It shouted, "Stop! Don't hurt little Yu Yu." However, its thin and small claws reached first. It clenched into a fist and threw a punch at the five-clawed golden dragon's cheek. Bang! The huge dragon head was hit to the side by this force and crashed into the stone wall, causing debris to fly everywhere. However, the five-clawed golden dragon did not stop there. It swung its tail and swept it towards little Yu Yu. Little Yu Yu is not easy to deal with either. With a kick of its hind legs, it turned into a shadow and rushed towards the dragon's tail. With a sweep of its tail, it collided with the dragon's tail. Whoosh! Little Yu Yu flew out like a kite with a broken string. She crashed into the stone wall and fell softly. Xiaobai was furious and roared, "You stupid dragon! Why did you hurt little Yu? I'll beat you up!" Boom! The strand of red hair on Xiaobai's forehead immediately burst into flames. Its small fist was like a storm as it hit the five-clawed golden dragon's head. Although its fist was small, its strength was extraordinary. A dent gradually appeared on the dragon's scales. The five-clawed golden dragon was in pain and was completely enraged. Its dragon claws viciously clawed at Xiaobai. Chapter 1017. Xiaobai's frail body exploded with unparalleled fighting strength, but the five-clawed golden dragon was not to be trifled with. The battle was extremely intense. Little Yu staggered up from the ground, shook her head a few times, and became fierce. She glared fiercely at the five-clawed golden dragon and bared her teeth, as if she wanted to tear a piece of dragon meat from its body. Tang Zheng frowned. What kind of deep hatred did the five-clawed golden dragon have with little Yu that made it so angry? He couldn't just stand by and watch the two sides fight to the death, so he shouted, "Stop! All of you stop!" However, the angry five-clawed golden dragon ignored his words. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a sharp gaze. With a thought, the soul imprint suddenly activated. Ah! The five-clawed golden dragon let out a mournful cry. The dragon held its head with its claws and fell to the ground, rolling nonstop. "I don't dare, stop, I don't dare anymore." Tang Zheng coldly snorted and finally stopped. The five-clawed golden dragon's body twitched as if it had just walked through the gates of hell. In fact, it really did come back from the gates of hell. As long as Tang Zheng did not stop, its soul would be scattered. The five-clawed golden dragon finally calmed down and gasped for breath. Now that it had submitted to four infinity Tang Zheng, its little life was in his hands, and it had no way of disobeying him. Xiaobai curled his lips and coldly snorted. He ran over to check little Yu's body and kept asking, "Is there something wrong?" Little Yu shook her head. Xiaobai grinned and patted its head in relief, saying, "Amazing, this stupid dragon is too bad. It actually attacked you indiscriminately." Little Yu grimaced and made a sound, as if agreeing with Xiaobai's words. Tang Zheng was sure that there was a reason for this, so he walked to the five-clawed golden dragon's head. Although it was lying on the ground, the dragon's head was still bigger than Tang Zheng, making him seem very small. However, when he stood in front of the five-clawed golden dragon, he seemed to have a very large image, and no one dared to underestimate him. The five-clawed golden dragon raised his eyelids and looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated expression. His frustration was mixed with anger and helplessness. "Why did you attack little Yu?" Tang Zheng's face was as cold as ice as he asked. The five-clawed golden dragon finally regained its composure. It slowly raised its head and looked down at Tang Zheng, but it no longer had the slightest arrogance. It softly said, "Because I was imprisoned here because of it." "What?" Tang Zheng was shocked. His eyes jumped wildly. He had thought of many reasons, but he had never thought of this because it was beyond common sense. "I'm telling the truth. It's up to you to believe it or not." Looking at Tang Zheng's reaction, the five-clawed golden dragon didn't expect him to believe it. "Tell me the details. You never said how you were imprisoned here before. Now that things have come to this, there's nothing to hide, right?" Tang Zheng urged. The five-clawed golden dragon pondered for a long time. Now that the dragon was under the eaves, it had no choice but to lower its head. Moreover, this was an unchangeable fact. There was nothing to hide. Thus, it only spoke slowly. It turned out that the five-clawed golden dragon lived in the sea. At that time, the dragon clan had already left the human world, and it was the only one left. It never thought that its whereabouts would be exposed, and it would be schemed against by someone with ulterior motives. The dragon clan liked gold, silver, and jewelry. So these people specially prepared countless gold, silver, and jewelry to bring to the sea. Box after box of gold, silver, and jewelry were poured into the sea like bait in a pond to lure fish. The five-clawed golden dragon was naturally attracted by these gold, silver, and jewelry. It never thought that what awaited it would be an inescapable net that had been planned for a long time. Among them, a large number of cultivators had been waiting for it for a long time. When it appeared, they attacked together. That battle was earth-shattering. It set off a huge tsunami that submerged dozens of islands. However, the Dragon Clan was the king of the sea after all. Even if the five-clawed golden dragon was not considered a very powerful existence in the Dragon Clan, it was still not something that an ordinary cultivator could resist. The five-clawed golden dragon was very angry. It was actually schemed against by a human. Thus, in a rage, it did not retreat. Instead, it took advantage of the first opportunity to launch a fierce attack. The cultivators suffered heavy casualties. Just when the five-clawed golden dragon thought that victory was in sight and was feeling complacent, a woman appeared with a scarlet lunar beast. This woman and the beast's cultivation were very powerful. Both sides launched a huge battle. It was as if the world was going to be destroyed by this battle. Even that huge warship was going to sink into the sea. The five-clawed golden dragon resisted with all its might. After seriously injuring the woman and killing the scarlet lunar beast, causing it to sink into the sea, it still fell into the hands of that woman. It was then bound by a chain made of 9 Serenity's mysterious iron and suppressed under the imperial city. Tang Zheng was overwhelmed with emotions. Without a doubt, although that experience was only a few sentences, it was definitely thrilling. If he did not see it with his own eyes, it would be hard to imagine. However, that woman and the scarlet lunar beast actually worked together to imprison the five-clawed golden dragon. That was really daring. It was probably a first. However, this scarlet lunar beast is obviously not that scarlet lunar beast. At that time, I killed it. After it sank into the sea, I'm afraid it had already become a skeleton. The five-clawed golden dragon looked at little Yu Yu again, causing little Yu Yu to keep staring at it. Are you sure it's dead? Tang Zheng moved his head and asked. The five-clawed golden dragon nodded. Of course. In fact, it's really strange. That woman actually took away the scarlet lunar beast's core before it sank into the sea. She didn't even let her own partner go. That woman's ruthlessness is something I have rarely seen in my life. What? She took away the scarlet lunar beast's core? Tang Zheng was shocked. The five-clawed golden dragon looked at Tang Zheng blankly and asked, Yes, what's wrong with that? Tang Zheng was as clear as a mirror. It seemed that the woman also knew the importance of the scarlet lunar beast's core. Therefore, after it died, she directly took away its core. This woman was really ruthless. After all, the scarlet lunar beast was her partner. The core of the scarlet lunar beast had probably been taken away by that woman long ago. She definitely had the scarlet lunar beast's abilities. Seeing that the five-clawed golden dragon was staring at him suspiciously, Tang Zheng did not explain further. However, another question popped up in his mind. Since the scarlet lunar beast was already dead, where did Xiao Bai come from? Were there other scarlet lunar beasts at that time? Tang Zheng asked. Definitely not. The scarlet lunar beast said firmly. Tang Zheng looked at it deeply and chose to believe its words. However, the most important thing was, where did little Yu Yu come from? His intuition told him that little Yu Yu must be related to the scarlet lunar beast. After all, it had always been living in the shipwreck site. Could it be that the scarlet lunar beast was pregnant? Although it died and sank to the bottom of the sea, little Yu Yu broke out of its body and stubbornly survived? A thought flashed through his mind, and he immediately thought of this possibility. This was the only possibility that could explain everything. He quickly looked at little Yu Yu. Little Yu Yu was also looking at him. The more he looked, the more certain he was that his guess was correct. Master, what's wrong? Xiao Bai looked at Tang Zheng blankly and asked. Little Yu Yu, I finally know where you came from. You're the descendant of the scarlet lunar beast from that time, Tang Zheng said. Little Yu Yu cried out, but he did not understand what it meant. I really didn't expect this. Tang Zheng could not help but sigh. The five-clawed golden dragon understood and looked at Xiao Bai in disbelief. Its eyes were burning with anger. You're the descendant of the scarlet lunar beast from that time? I clearly killed it? I can't believe it left you alive. Seeing that it was about to attack again, Tang Zheng coldly scoffed and said, What? Do you still want to have a taste of what happened just now? The five-clawed golden dragon trembled and shook its head immediately. That's the previous generation's grudge. What does it have to do with you? Stop right now, do you hear me? Tang Zheng reprimanded. Although the five-clawed golden dragon was unwilling, it did not dare to refute. After hesitating for a while, it helplessly lowered its head to show its obedience. The jewels that I found must have been left behind by the five-clawed golden dragon. I don't know how many jewels she collected at that time. There must be more of those that were scattered in the sea. I'm afraid that the woman did not know that the scarlet lunar beast was pregnant. Otherwise, she would not have let its body sink into the sea so easily and let little Yu escape. However, I'm not sure about the relationship between the scarlet lunar beast and the woman. Based on my intuition, if the woman could be so cruel to the scarlet lunar beast, I'm afraid that the two of them were not really partners who would go through life and death together. Tang Zheng silently analyzed, and the fog gradually dissipated in front of his eyes. However, a figure flashed in his mind, the scarlet lunar beast in the crystal. The Swedish king once said that it flew from the sky and found it in a meteorite that landed in the world. Since then, the scarlet lunar beast had never broken through the meteorite. If that was the case, it would be a contradiction. The scarlet lunar beast could not break through the crystal, but Xianyin could. There must be a secret behind it. Moreover, why did the scarlet lunar beast and the meteorite come to the human world? How did the dead scarlet lunar beast and the woman come to the human world? Moreover, what was their purpose of coming to the human world? Where did the woman go in the end? What was her real purpose of imprisoning the five-clawed golden dragon? Was it just to help the emperor absorb the dragon energy? She was from the Outland. Why would she put in so much effort to help the emperor? Tang Zheng did not think that she was being merciful. People from the Outland must have a purpose for coming to the human world. Moreover, the emperor suffered a great loss. Although he absorbed the dragon energy, the heaven and earth soul suppression formation could only suppress the five-clawed golden dragon with the help of the country's luck. Therefore, the country's luck was damaged and the emperor's dynasty was declining day by day. Therefore, the woman might have an unspeakable secret. Chapter 10:18. Seeing him fall into deep thought, the three strange beasts fell silent at the same time and stared at him without blinking. Suddenly, Tang Zheng raised his head and looked at the five-clawed golden dragon. Do you still remember what that woman looked like? Of course I remember. The five-clawed golden dragon nodded, his eyes burning with anger. Even if she turned into ashes, I would still recognize her. Then tell me what she looks like. Tang Zheng's heart suddenly had a bold idea. The only person from the sky beyond heaven who still existed in this world was Xianyin. Was Xianyin the woman from back then? The five-clawed golden dragon immediately described the woman. Her image had been deeply imprinted in his mind. Thus, through his description, the image of a woman was vivid as if she was really standing in front of everyone. Tang Zheng's eyes widened in an instant. Heavens! It really was Xianyin. There was no mistake. It was impossible for it not to be her. However, Tang Zheng did not take out the crystal stone and let the five-clawed golden dragon confront Xianyin. In Sumeru world, he could still suppress Xianyin. If he let her out now, without the Empyrean fairy there to suppress her, Xianyin would definitely take the opportunity to regain her freedom and escape. Tang Zheng would never be willing to take this risk. Master, isn't it describing Xianyin? Xiaobai also understood and asked. Xianyin. Yes, that's her name. Do you know her? The five-clawed golden dragon seemed to be stimulated and moved all over, causing the chains to clatter. At this point, Tang Zheng finally confirmed his guess. He stared at the five-clawed golden dragon for a long time, weighing the pros and cons. In the end, he decided to tell him the truth. There's something I have to tell you. The Xianyin you mentioned is now in my hands. What? She's in your hands? The five-clawed golden dragon was shocked. Yes. How did you catch her? Her cultivation is very high. She's in the Mahayana realm. Mahayana realm? Tang Zheng's eyelids twitched crazily. That's impossible. She is clearly only in the divinity transformation stage. Otherwise, the Empyrean fairy, and I wouldn't have been able to capture her. Tang Zheng had never seen anyone in the Mahayana realm. Even the Empyrean fairy was only in the divinity transformation realm. So he immediately rejected the idea of a five-clawed golden dragon. The five-clawed golden dragon retorted, "I've experienced a life and death battle with her. How could I be wrong about such common sense?" Of course you're not mistaken. It's just that she's indeed only in the divine transformation realm. The five-clawed golden dragon pondered for a while and said doubtfully, "Is it because I injured her? Was that why her cultivation had dropped so much? Just like how I've been suppressed here for a long time, my power has been greatly reduced, and I'm far from my peak state. That must be the case." Tang Zheng agreed after thinking about it. How badly did you injure her that her cultivation would drop so much, and she hasn't recovered after so many years? Tang Zheng asked curiously. The five-clawed golden dragon snorted heavily. At that time, I was determined to kill her, but she didn't have the will to fight to the death. That's why she suffered such a great loss and was severely injured by me. However, it's really strange. With her cultivation, she should have recovered to her peak state long ago. Tang Zheng had another question. Xian Yin must have consumed the red lunar beast's inner core. Then, her cultivation speed would be twice as fast with half the effort. How could she have stagnated at such a rapid pace? There must be some unknown secret behind this. Anyway, all in all, one thing was clear now. Xian Yin and the red lunar beast had joined forces with the emperor to capture the five-clawed golden dragon and suppressed it under the imperial city. As for her true purpose, no one knew why she had joined forces with New Era to overthrow the emperor at that time. That was even more of a mystery. That's not right. Suddenly, Tang Zheng turned his head and looked at the stone room behind the five-clawed golden dragon. At that time, there was an old man's phantom guarding there. Didn't you say that he suppressed it here? How come it's Xian Yin suppressing it now? The five-clawed golden dragon rolled his eyes and said, "What's wrong with that?" That year, the battle at sea was indeed Xian Yin's doing. However, there was another expert in the Emperor dynasty. That old man was the imperial advisor. The imperial advisor oversaw the construction of the imperial city. So, in the end, he was also one of the people who suppressed me. In the end, he spent almost all of his time in this stone room. Even when he died, he left behind a phantom. How high was his cultivation? Tang Zheng asked. Just barely at the threshold of the Mahayana realm. Tang Zheng nodded. That made sense. The imperial advisor who was at the divine transformation realm was no match for the five-clawed golden dragon. So, he had to rely on Xian Yin to capture it. The only question now was why did Xian Yin's power not return to its peak after taking the red lunar beast's inner core? Even after hundreds of years, she still did not return to the Mahayana realm. If he knew the answer, he was afraid that he would really be able to see the clear sky. With a thought, he entered the Sumru world with his divine sense. Looking at the huge crystal, he could not help but feel helpless. Unless Xian Yin came out herself, this problem would always be bothering him. Since you've already caught Xian Yin, give her to me. I want to kill her. The five-clawed golden dragon strongly requested. Tang Zheng smiled helplessly. If possible, I want you to kill her too. But now that she has sealed herself, we can't break the seal at all. What's going on? The five-clawed golden dragon was in disbelief. He was very emotional. He was so close to getting revenge, but he was told that there was nothing he could do. She sealed herself with the crystal. Unless we absorb all the energy of the crystal, we can't break the seal at all. Tang Zheng said with a wry smile. The five-clawed golden dragon exclaimed, "Crystal? How could she seal herself with a crystal? Is there such a spell in this world?" He knew what a crystal was, but he had never heard of a spell that could seal people with a crystal. He could not help but look at Tang Zheng suspiciously. Tang Zheng calmly accepted it and looked into its eyes. In the end, the five-clawed golden dragon had to believe what he said, but he would not be satisfied until he saw it for himself. "I want to see her." Tang Zheng shook his head without hesitation. "No, she can break the seal at any time. If I let her out, we can't stop her at all." "I can," the five-clawed golden dragon vowed. Tang Zheng still refused. It's better to be cautious. Looking at Tang Zheng's firm attitude, the five-clawed golden dragon knew that he could not persuade him. Although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. Seeing this, Tang Zheng comforted. Since she is in my hands, then she definitely won't be able to escape. So you don't have to be anxious. She is extremely important. There are too many secrets on her body. We must squeeze out all of her secrets one by one. Only then can we maximize her value. The five-clawed golden dragon snorted. Obviously, killing Xian Yin could resolve the anger and resentment in his heart. You had contact with Xian Yin in the past. Have you heard of her real purpose? How would I know? My intuition tells me that she was sent by the sky beyond heaven for a purpose. So what if it's not simple? I just want to kill her. The five-clawed golden dragon said angrily. Tang Zheng looked at it and knew that it was in a bad mood, so he could not continue talking to it. So he said, although little Yu Yu's mother has a grudge with you, the past is like smoke, so this debt is written off. It is now following me, so don't have any ideas about it. Otherwise, you will know the consequences. The five-clawed golden dragon looked at little Yu Yu unwillingly. Finally, he lowered his head to show that he understood. I used to think that you were very smart. Why do I feel that you are getting more and more stupid? Xiaobai swaggered over and pointed a claw at the five-clawed golden dragon. The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes instantly widened. The pits on his head were still aching, and it would take some time for them to recover. Whitey's origin was too strange. Although its fist was small, its strength was strangely great. The key was that its speed was comparable to the speed of light, making it impossible for people to catch it. This gave the five-clawed golden dragon a headache. When facing Xiao Bai, his huge body was useless. Looking at Little White's appearance, Tang Zheng could not help but laugh, and the corner of his mouth hooked up into a smile. Seeing that the five-clawed golden dragon was speechless and almost had internal injuries from holding it in, he said, Little White, speak less. Xiao Bai rolled his eyes. That's right. This stupid dragon is not obedient at all. It just needs to be taught a lesson. It is much worse than little Yu Yu. Master, what do you think about the taste of a roasted dragon? Roasted dragon. Tang Zheng was flabbergasted. He really dared to think about it. If he really roasted a dragon and ate it, how shocking would that be? Speaking of which, what was the taste of dragon meat? Had anyone tried it before? In the end, he was also a person who was not afraid of anything. Yet, he was also thinking about random things. The five-clawed golden dragon was incomparably angry and roared. Xiao Bai, don't push your luck. A smile appeared in little Yu Yu's eyes, as if she was very relieved. Xiao Bai was not afraid of the five-clawed golden dragon's threat at all, and said, What can you do to me? You have to be obedient, so that I can speak up for you and ask Master to let you out sooner. Otherwise, you will be locked up here for the rest of your life. The five-clawed golden dragon was directly choked. Don't you me, since you have pledged allegiance to Master, you must understand your position. Moreover, I am the first to pledge allegiance to Master. So, you all have to listen to me. I am your boss. If you don't listen to Master, I will roast you. Xiao Bai said with the demeanor of a general. Ha ha ha. Tang Zheng finally could not hold it in and laughed out loud. The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes were red. He did not know what to say. Little Yu Yu had a kind of satisfaction of getting her revenge. She wagged her tail and cheerfully came in front of Xiao Bai. She took the initiative to bow, as if inviting him to ride her. Little Yu Yu is so obedient. Xiao Bai rode up and then pointed at the five-clawed golden dragon and said, Hurry up and call me boss. The five-clawed golden dragon ignored him and looked at Tang Zheng, as if it wanted him to do justice. Tang Zheng deliberately gave him a cold shoulder and turned his head to the side, ignoring him. Master, if you don't call me boss, you could take care of it, okay? Xiao Bai said. Tang Zheng smiled and nodded. Chapter 1019. A dragon under the eaves had no choice but to lower its head. Tang Zheng knew when to stop and said, This time I came to find you for another matter. The five-clawed golden dragon lowered his posture and asked humbly, What is it? It's about the Langyu Pavilion. Back then, When he ascended to the 5th level of the Langu Pavilion, he suddenly had an idea. When he looked out of the window of the Langu Pavilion, the area outside of the Langu Pavilion was vast and boundless. He did not know where it was, and he had the urge to explore it. However, this matter was not a small matter, so it was better to ask the 5-clawed golden dragon first. I see that there is an endless area outside the Langu Pavilion. What is that place? The 5-clawed golden dragon was startled. He stared straight at Tang Zheng and asked warily, "Why do you ask this question? I just happened to see it," and suddenly had an idea. Before we enter the Langu Pavilion, we are told not to go to other areas except for the Langu Pavilion. I actually forgot to tell you about this. The 5-clawed golden dragon said with lingering fear, "We can't go to those areas? Why? I think that area is not small. Maybe there are other things." Tang Zheng asked puzzledly. "This is the rule of the Dragon Clan. All the Dragon Clan disciples must abide by it. Why do you ask so many questions?" The 5-clawed golden dragon said with dissatisfaction. Tang Zheng frowned and said in his heart, "What rule of the Dragon Clan? I'm not a Dragon Clan." The Dragon Clan was so afraid of this area, which meant that it was not simple. It seemed that this area was worth exploring. Seeing that he did not say a word, the 5-clawed golden dragon's eyes changed slightly. He exclaimed, "You don't want to go to that area, do you? I'm telling you, don't take the risk. Since the Dragon Clan has this rule, it must be for our own good." Seeing that he was so strongly against it, Tang Zheng was even more certain that there was something fishy about it. So he said, "Has no one ever been there before? Anyway, I've never heard of it. Your Dragon God's secret art has now been cultivated to the 5th level. You can climb to the 5th floor. Moreover, your cultivation has greatly increased, and breaking through to the 6th level of the Dragon God's secret art is just around the corner. Why do you want to think about those illusory things?" The 5-clawed golden dragon said earnestly. Tang Zheng looked at the 5-clawed golden dragon suspiciously. Why was he so agitatedly objecting? Could there be some hidden reason? In the final analysis, he didn't completely trust the 5-clawed golden dragon in the bottom of his heart. That was why he had such concerns. He chuckled and said non-committally, "It's been a month since I last entered the Langu Pavilion. I'll go in again now." After he finished speaking, he sat down cross-legged. Xiao Bai immediately stood guard beside him. He glared fiercely at the 5-clawed golden dragon, as if to say, "Don't you have any bad ideas? I'm here." Tang Zheng's consciousness had already entered the dragon's seal. The towering Langia Pavilion was right in front of him. He raised his head and glanced at it. He didn't walk in. Instead, he turned around and walked in another direction. In the end, he still decided to explore this area. Apart from the Langia Pavilion, the other places seemed to be shrouded in fog. He couldn't see the specific appearance at all. Tang Zheng walked straight into the fog. He didn't know how long he had walked. He looked around and couldn't distinguish the direction. He leaped high into the air. He was dozens of meters high, but he still couldn't break free from the fog. The fog was still heavy in all directions. This was inside the dragon's seal. He was just a wisp of consciousness. He couldn't fly on his sword. He could only continue to move forward. Suddenly, he stepped on air and fell down involuntarily. He couldn't help but scream. He was about to cast a spell to stop, but he found that he was falling too fast. He couldn't stop at all. Bang! With a muffled sound, he fell heavily to the ground. However, he didn't hurt himself. He quickly got up and looked around. There was no fog around him. Everything was very clear, but when he looked up, his whole body trembled. He looked at the scene in front of him as if he had seen a ghost. The Langia Pavilion. He couldn't help but shout, "Why am I back in the Langia Pavilion? I'm clearly falling down. The Langia Pavilion should be above me." He subconsciously looked up. The sky was gray, and he couldn't see anything. Only the Langia Pavilion in front of him was clear. However, the Langia Pavilion was very strange. It didn't stand toward the sky. Instead, it was an inverted triangle. The floors were downward as if they were suspended on the ground. The 3 big words Langia Pavilion on the plaque left a deep impression on him. Tang Zheng definitely would not recognize it wrongly. This was the Langia Pavilion, but why did he come back? Could it be that he was going around in circles again? No, this was not the world of spirits and souls. How could there be a ghost going around in circles? Moreover, the Langia pavilion was upside down. He was confused. He turned his head and looked around. Without the fog, he could see the end at a glance. It was completely different from what he saw before. He scratched his head. He was very troubled. Since there was no way out outside, he might as well enter the Langia pavilion. He strode into the Langia pavilion, but just as he entered the first floor, he couldn't help but stop. This was because the first floor was completely different from what he saw before. It was empty. There was nothing. However, when his feet landed on the ground, the scene suddenly changed. There was an earth-shattering change. It was not empty. A huge forest of steels immediately appeared in front of him. A forest of steels. Tang Zheng's eyes widened. He stared at the forest of steels that suddenly appeared. Since it was called a forest, it was enough to show that there were many steels. There was not a single word on the steels. They were smooth, but they gave off a very solemn feeling. This looks like a tombstone, Tang Zheng muttered to himself after observing for a while. Why were there so many tombstones in the Langia pavilion? Who was the one buried here? Tang Zheng's hand gently touched the tombstone. A cold feeling came from his palm. A ray of light rose from the tombstone, and a familiar aura spread. Dragon's might, Tang Zheng exclaimed in disbelief. As soon as he finished speaking, a ray of light rose from the tombstone and formed a golden dragon in midair. It flew around the forest of steels, then fell into the tombstone and disappeared. Tang Zheng stared blankly at this scene. What's going on? Why did a dragon fly out of the tombstone? He placed his hand on another tombstone. Just like before, a ray of light flew up and intertwined to form a dragon. Then, it flew into the tombstone again. Tang Zheng's breathing involuntarily quickened. He stared at the forest of steels as if he wanted to see through the mystery. A thought flashed through his mind, and he seemed to be deep in thought. Could these dragons be the ones buried below? Aren't they already dead? Why are they still here? Are they dragon souls with remnant souls? Since so many dragons were buried here, he shouldn't disturb them. Thus, he quietly stepped onto the stairs that led to the second floor. After he stepped onto the stairs, the scene on the first floor changed. The forest of tombstones disappeared, and it became bare again. Looks like I have to be inside to see the forest of tombstones. Dragons have such a long lifespan, I didn't expect that so many of them would die. When he walked all the way down to the entrance of the second floor, it was still empty in front of him. However, when he stepped into it, everything changed again. It was still the forest of tombstones, but there were many fewer tombstones. This time, he didn't touch the tombstones and let them rest here. Could it be that this whole building is a tomb, and countless dragons are buried here? He suddenly wondered, but no one answered his question. He went down to the third floor, and it was still the same tombstones. It was the same on the fourth floor. When he walked to the fifth floor, he finally found a special feature. The lower he went, the fewer tombstones there were. Especially when he reached the fifth floor, there were only about 100 tombstones. He stopped and looked at so many tombstones and sank into deep thought. If it was a normal person, they would probably be very scared when they fell into so many tombstones. However, Tang Zheng didn't feel much fear. He just felt that it was very strange. Why would such a situation occur here? Although the two Langia pavilion had the same name, the things inside were completely different. This was a tomb, but the ones buried inside were all dragons, unlike the prehistoric heavenly tomb that not only had humans, but also demonic beasts. He looked at the stairs leading to the sixth floor and directly walked over. Since he was here, he had to find out what was below. He couldn't give up halfway. Bang! However, when he walked to the front of the stairs and was about to step on it, he was bounced back by a strong force and staggered back. He quickly stabilized his body and looked at the Langia pavilion in bewilderment. Could it be that this is the same as the Langia pavilion? If the dragon god method doesn't reach the corresponding level, it won't be able to reach the corresponding floor? Please, this is just a tomb. Why would there be such strict rules? He did not continue to try, nor was he in a hurry to go downstairs. There was nowhere to go outside, and there was only so much space in this space. Therefore, the problem that troubled him now was how to go back. With a thought, he tried to withdraw from the dragon seal, but found that there was no reaction at all. Why? When he was in the Langia Pavilion, he could come and go as he pleased. Now, it was as if his freedom was restricted. Could it be that you want to trap me here to death? Since there was no way out, he could only look for another way. His gaze turned and locked onto the stairs leading to the 6th floor. He remembered very clearly that when he tried to force his way to the stairs leading to the higher floors, he was bounced back by that huge force, and then he was forced out of the dragon seal. He wanted to imitate this method, so he circulated his internal energy. Like an angry lion, he rushed up the stairs with a whoosh. Bang! He was once again bounced back and fiercely crashed into the wall. His bones seemed to be about to fall apart, but he still did not retreat. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What was going on? Why didn't this method work? Could it be that it could only be done in that Langia Pavilion? He rolled his eyes speechlessly, but now that he couldn't leave, could it be that he was trapped here to death? No. Every time I come to the Langia Pavilion, there's a time limit. As long as the time is up, I can definitely leave automatically. He had a flash of inspiration and finally thought of this. Therefore, he was not in a hurry. He simply sat down, glanced at the tombstone, and then began to cultivate without any distractions. Cultivating in the Langia Pavilion was twice the result with half the effort, so he could not let go of this good opportunity. Moreover, waiting was very boring. He silently circulated his power, especially the Dragon God method, which was circulating on its own. The 5-clawed golden dragon in his glabella began to dance. Chapter 10:20. The tombstone lit up and soared into the air, turning into a golden dragon. However, this time, the golden dragon did not hover in the air, but directly swooped down towards Tang Zheng. Puff! The golden dragon flew into Tang Zheng's body and disappeared without a trace. Tang Zheng's entire body trembled. He also discovered this point and was shocked. The dragon's soul entered the body. The dragon's soul quickly turned into energy, turned into a powerful dragon chi, and quickly fused into his 8 extraordinary meridians. However, even more dragon chi rushed into the dragon seal and fused into the body of the 5-clawed golden dragon. In an instant, the 5-clawed golden dragon blossomed with a golden light. Tang Zheng was completely bathed in the golden light, like a dazzling golden man. He immediately realized something and hurriedly activated the Dragon God secret art. A series of mysterious concepts spread out, and the dragon chi in his body rose steadily. The 5-clawed golden dragon gradually changed, and the 6th dragon claw grew out of it. He looked at this scene in disbelief. He was both shocked and amazed. The dragon soul could actually help him improve the Dragon God secret art. When the 6th dragon claw completely grew out, he had completely leveled up to the 6th level of the Dragon God secret art. He suddenly opened his eyes and looked at a tombstone beside him. The dragon soul just now flew out from it. He looked at the other tombstones. Without a doubt, there were also dragon souls in those tombstones. He suddenly had a thought. Could he absorb the dragon souls of the other tombstones? He stretched out his hand and was about to activate the Dragon God secret art when suddenly, the world spun and the scene in front of him changed. The forest of tombstones disappeared and he returned to reality. Looking at the group of Xiao Bai and the other 2 looking at him with burning eyes, he stood up unhurriedly. What did you do? The 5-clawed golden dragon asked anxiously. Tang Zheng looked at him indifferently and asked, What do you think I did? How would I know? Just now, your entire body erupted with a ball of golden light, and your dragon chi soared. Furthermore, your Dragon God mantra has actually broken through to the 6th stage. What exactly did you do? How did you do it? The 5-clawed golden dragon impatiently asked, mainly because the strange phenomenon just now was too shocking. Little White and Scarlet Moon were also looking at Tang Zheng curiously, unable to take their eyes off him. Tang Zheng smiled faintly and said, Do you really want to know that much? Of course. I was cultivating the Dragon God technique in the Langu Pavilion. Didn't you say that the Dragon God technique was about to break through? I coincidentally broke through this threshold. So what's so strange about that? Tang Zheng asked with a smile. The five-clawed golden dragon thought for a while and shook his head. No. It doesn't make sense for your body to suddenly have such a powerful dragon chi. Tang Zheng shivered. This five-clawed golden dragon's eyes were indeed shrewd. He actually saw through this. Oh, then what do you think is going on? Tang Zheng asked with a smile that was not a smile. The five-clawed golden dragon thought for a long time. He looked at Tang Zheng from head to toe, as if he wanted to see through him. However, in the end, he shook his head helplessly. I don't know, but you should know very well. Is that so? Tang Zheng smiled meaningfully. What should I know? Where did that dragon chi come from? I was in the Langu Pavilion. Where do you think my dragon chi came from? Tang Zheng asked back. How would I know? Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows. He did not know if the five-clawed golden dragon was telling the truth. There was no doubt that there was another place outside the Langu Pavilion. However, the five-clawed golden dragon had always warned him not to go anywhere. This made Tang Zheng very suspicious. He wondered if the five-clawed golden dragon knew about the existence of another Langu Pavilion. Then let me ask you another question. I'm sure you know very well. Tang Zheng changed his way of thinking and chose a roundabout strategy. What question? How will the dragons be settled after they die? The five-clawed golden dragon looked at Tang Zheng suspiciously and asked, Why do you want to ask this question? This is not a very secretive question, is it? Tang Zheng asked back. He stared at him with a burning gaze, trying to distinguish whether his reaction was real or fake. The five-clawed golden dragon said, Of course the dragons are buried after they die. They are buried in the ground for peace. It's no different from you humans. Then where are they buried? That depends on their own wishes. Won't they be buried together? Why do they have to be buried together? The five-clawed golden dragon's rhetorical question surprised Tang Zheng. Moreover, it did not seem to be lying. However, why would so many dragons be buried together in the Langu Pavilion? This was too abnormal. He really wanted to tell the five-clawed golden dragon about his discovery, but he took a deep breath and held back. He continued to ask, Then after the dragons die, will there still be a dragon soul? The five-clawed golden dragon raised his head high and proudly said, The dragons are very different from you humans. After you humans die, your soul will enter the ghost realm, but we dragons will not. Our dragon soul will not be destroyed, but after we are buried, the dragon soul will be buried together in the cemetery to rest in peace. Tang Zheng was suddenly enlightened, and his heart gradually understood. So that was how it was. The dragon souls on the tombstones were the souls of the dragons buried there, but the dragon souls were not destroyed and were also buried there. But why could he absorb those dragon souls? Could it be that everyone could absorb dragon souls? He thought for a while and asked, I guess there must be a lot of dragon chi in the dragon soul, right? Of course. The five-clawed golden dragon nodded. The dragons can absorb dragon chi to improve their cultivation, right? The five-clawed golden dragon was about to nod when he suddenly froze. He looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated expression and asked, What do you mean? Are you talking about absorbing dragon souls and then improving your cultivation? Tang Zheng remained calm. The five-clawed golden dragon roared angrily. Why is your idea as despicable as the Dragon Slayer? Dragon Slayer? Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows. This was the first time he had heard of this term. He couldn't help but stare at the five-clawed golden dragon curiously and asked, What is a dragon slayer? A group of despicable and shameless guys. The five-clawed golden dragon wanted to say something, but hesitated. Seeing that Tang Zheng was listening attentively, he didn't dare to not say it. He thought that this wasn't a big secret, so there was no harm in telling him. Thus, the five-clawed golden dragon indignantly said, Dragon Slayer is a general term for a group in the world. Not only are there people in this group, there are also other races, but the only thing they have in common is that they specialize in hunting dragon souls, absorbing the dragon chi in them, and then increasing their cultivation. Tang Zheng seemed to have opened the door to a new world. He curiously asked, "There is actually such a group in the world. Hasn't your dragon race always been very powerful and aloof?" The five-clawed golden dragon seemed a little embarrassed and said, "Even if it is a powerful race, it is difficult to escape the schemes of some sinister and deceitful people, especially these dragon slayers. Not only do they work together to slay dragons, what is even more despicable is that they actually absorb the dragon souls of the buried dragons." Tang Jin couldn't help but blush. Didn't he also absorb the dragon souls? He was the despicable person that the five-clawed golden dragon said. He coughed twice to cover up the embarrassment in his heart and said, "Then how do you usually deal with these dragon slayers?" "Of course we cut them into 8 pieces." The five-clawed golden dragon said fiercely. Tang Zheng felt a chill run down his spine, but he pretended to be calm and said, "Where are these dragon slayers?" "The dragon slayers are very cunning. In the past, it was because we were unwilling to be disturbed that a portion of our dragon race left our homeland to find a new place to live. I came to this world with the other clansmen, but in the end we found out that this was not our paradise, so we naturally left." The five-clawed golden dragon said regretfully. However, Tang Zheng's heart jumped wildly. He grasped a key point and asked, "You said that the dragon slayers forced you to leave your homeland. Then how strong are they? Even stronger than your dragon race? How is that possible?" Panic flashed through the five-clawed golden dragon's eyes as he denied it. "The dragon race is the strongest. In short, the dragon slayers are very hateful. If I were to meet them, I would definitely tear them into 10,000 pieces. Since the dragon soul is so dangerous, haven't you thought of a way? For example, if you hit the dragon soul in a certain place and then protect it, wouldn't you be able to prevent it from being taken away by the dragon slayers?" Tang Zheng asked deliberately. The five-clawed golden dragon looked at Tang Zheng in surprise and said, "You are really smart. You actually thought of the same method as us back then. However, the dragon slayers are too cunning. No matter where they hide, they can find them like a cat stealing a fish. In the end, because many dragon souls were gathered together, they took advantage of them and their strength increased greatly. It is precisely because of this incident that the dragon slayer's strength increased greatly and posed a huge threat to our dragon race." The five-clawed golden dragon did not finish his sentence. It was precisely because they adopted this strategy that they were wiped out by the dragon slayers. As a result, a large number of dragon souls were taken away and the dragon slayer's strength reached a peak state. They were actually able to threaten the existence of the dragon race. So the dragon race had no choice but to find another place to live. Of course, these secrets would be too embarrassing for the dragon race, so it was impossible for the five-clawed golden dragon to not say it. But what kind of person was Tang Zheng? He could see the big picture from the small details. Through analysis, he gradually comprehended a trace of clues, and his guess was not far from the truth. Immediately, he became even more curious about the dragon slayers. What kind of group could be so powerful? Then what about the tombstone in the Langya Pavilion? Could it be that it was also a place for the dragon race to settle down? Only the dragon race could enter the Langya Pavilion through the dragon seal. The dragon slayers had no way at all. Why didn't the dragon race place all the dragon souls in the Langya Pavilion? Wouldn't everything be fine in that way? He did not know the reason, so he decided to test the five-clawed golden dragon again. He asked, "Five-clawed golden dragon, do you really not know what is in the space outside the Langya Pavilion? Didn't I tell you? The dragon race has a rule that they are not allowed to set foot in that space. They can only go to the Langya Pavilion." The five-clawed golden dragon said impatiently. Seeing that there were no flaws in his words, Tang Zheng decided to believe him first. It seemed that he really did not know about the steel forest. Since that was the case, then he could not tell him. Otherwise, with his temper, he would definitely lose his temper. If he told him that he had absorbed a dragon soul, he was afraid that he would even have thoughts of killing him. Chapter 1021. In order to avoid arousing the suspicions of the five-clawed golden dragon, Tang Zheng brought Xiao Bai and little Yu Yu out of the imperial city. The harvest this time was quite bountiful, allowing him to come into contact with a brand new world. The legend of the Dragon Slayer made his heart surge, so there was actually such a powerful person in this world. The Dragon Clan was not always aloof and invincible. As long as one was strong enough, there was no need to fear any enemy. The sky revealed a white belly, and the rising sun illuminated the capital, turning it into a golden yellow color. At the end of August, the capital was very hot. Even in the early morning, there was an impulse to soak in ice water. Tang Zheng had long been immune to the cold and heat, sitting in the courtyard leisurely and contentedly watching the rising sun. Xiao Bai rode little Yu Yu back and forth in the courtyard, as if patrolling his own territory. Fang Shishir went to school to prepare for the new students. Lu Qingmei went to work, and went out early in the morning to work on the jewelry. Marshall was not idle either, cultivating in the training room. Speaking of the training room, this was something that the women had fiddled with. They had tidied up a basement and then transformed it into a training room. There were many weapons in it, and there was also a battle room. The women would occasionally have a battle practice on a whim. Tang Zheng had seen it once, and could not help but admit that women were really valiant in battle, especially women against women. They did not have much tenderness for the fair sex. In their words, the practice should be like actual combat, real swords and real spears, so that they could display their proper level in the face of battle. It was precisely because of this that the passion of the women in training surged, because everyone wanted to win in the practice. If they failed, they would definitely think of a way to get back their face next time. Looking at their tenacity, Tang Zheng praised them a few words, causing the women to be even more motivated. In fact, they were very clear that as Tang Zheng's strength increased, if they did not improve themselves, they would always be protected by Tang Zheng, and they would be a burden. No one wanted to be weak. They were in contact with the strong all day long. This idea was especially strong. After all, leisure time was short. Yen Luyun hurriedly rushed over. Seeing his leisurely appearance, he plopped down on a nearby chair, crossed his legs, and said, "Young Master Tang, your days are too comfortable." Tang Zheng looked at him with a smile and said, "You're the young master of the Yen family. Don't tell me you're having a hard time? Of course. You don't know how busy I am these days." "Oh, why?" Yen Luyun stared at Tang Zheng with wide eyes and said, "Why? It's all because of you. Don't you want to find the whereabouts of the Azure Dragon Halls, High Lord? How could we dare to be negligent? We practically turned the entire capital upside down." "Oh, what did you find?" Tang Zheng asked curiously. "Don't you know who I am? I've been busy for so long. If I didn't find anything, how could I have the nerve to come see you? Of course I found something," Yen Luyun said proudly. He and Tang Zheng had already become very familiar with each other. He was not as cautious as the elders in his family. Instead, his relationship with Tang Zheng was getting closer and closer. Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily. "Don't keep me in suspense. I've worked so hard for so long. How could you not let me show off a little? All right, since you're so impatient, I'll tell you. The High Lord's whereabouts are very mysterious. We couldn't find him, but we found the whereabouts of another person." "Who?" "Grandma Li. It's her." Tang Zheng was shocked. When Grandma Li returned to the Li Palace, she did not obtain any benefits. In the end, she took a few disciples and fled. He did not expect that she would come to the capital. Yes, this Granny Li is an expert. If it were in the past, we really wouldn't have dared to target her. But things are different now. With an expert like you, even the Li Palace's palace master has fallen from his altar. Don't be ridiculous. Where's Grandma Li now? Guess. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes. I'm not a fortune teller. Do you think I can predict it with my fingers? All right, I'll tell you. She went to Ji Wuxiang's Go Club. Fortunately, you reminded us many times to pay attention to this Go Club, so we were able to find this out by waiting for her. Go Club. Tang Zheng was shocked. Why did Grandma only go to the Go Club? Could it be that she had a connection with Ji Wuxiang? Tang Zheng had always been on guard against Ji Wuxiang. The main reason was that this person was too bizarre. so he had no choice but to guard against him. When a person hid themselves too deeply and too secretively, it was usually because there was something that could not be revealed. Ji Wuxiang was like this. He had such great power, but he was like an invisible person. This made Tang Zheng unable to understand him, so he naturally did not dare to underestimate him. Yes, Grandma Li went to the Go Club, but after she came out, we lost her. After all, she is a martial king. How can we follow her? Yin Luyun said regretfully. Have you seen her since then? You don't say. My people have seen her. She goes to the Go Club every once in a while. It's very regular. Yin Luyun said doubtfully. Tang Zheng thought for a moment, then suddenly asked, when will she go to the Go Club next time? Today. Tang Zheng stood up and said impatiently, Let's go. Let's go meet Grandma Li and see what she's up to. Xiao Bai and little Yu Yu jumped out and shouted, Master, we want to go too. Yin Luyun was so frightened by this scene that he sat on the ground and shouted in panic, It can talk. He had seen Xiao Bai before, but he had never seen it speak. Now that he saw it, he was scared to death. Tang Zheng was not surprised and said, Please, it's not like you don't know about demonic beasts. What's there to be surprised about? Xiao Bai's strength has increased, so it's not strange that it can talk. Yin Luyun got up and looked at Xiao Bai in shock. Xiao Bai looked at him with disdain and said, You're so timid. Yin Luyun did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was being looked down upon by an animal. Then who is it? Yin Luyun pointed at the scarlet lunar beast and asked, You're not a zoologist, so don't get to the bottom of it. Xiao Bai, you and little Yu stay at home and don't run around. I'm going out for a bit. Tang Zheng instructed. Xiao Bai did not force him and obediently rode little Yu to the side. Yin Luyun looked at their backs and sighed. Your animals have all become spirits. The people who come to your house must have a good heart. Otherwise, they will be scared to death. The two of them came to a secret spot on the street opposite the Go Club. The people guarding the place quickly came to welcome them. Is she here? Yin Luyun asked. Reporting to young Master Yin, she hasn't arrived yet, but she should be here soon. She's here. Tang Zheng suddenly interrupted the two of them and stared at a figure in the distance. This person was Grandma Li. She did not have any makeup on and swaggered into the Go Club. It's really her. Tang Zheng was all too familiar with Grandma Li. A person's face could be changed, but it was extremely difficult to change their temperament. What should we do? Yin Luyun asked. Tang Zheng looked at the door of the Go Club from afar and said, Let's go in too. Just like that? Yin Luyun asked in surprise. Shouldn't we be following her and investigating her real purpose? Grandma Li has many tricks up her sleeve. Even I don't have absolute confidence that I can follow her. In that case, to prevent her from escaping, why don't we go in and block her and see what she's doing in the Go Club? Tang Zheng said. Seeing that he had made up his mind, Yin Luyun also nodded happily. Okay, let's go in together. Ever since I heard you say that this Go Club is not simple, I really want to go in and investigate. Then let's take a good look this time and see what kind of medicine Ji Wuxiang is selling in his gourd, Tang Zheng said. The two of them strode towards the Go Club. The doorman did not stop the two of them, but recognized them and greeted them warmly. Would the two of you like to play a game? The doorman led the two of them in and asked respectfully. Tang Zheng did not speak and secretly spread out his divine sense. He immediately found Grandma Li's aura and said, We're looking for someone. After saying that, he walked straight in the direction of Grandma Li. The doorman's face immediately changed, and he said, There are all Go friends here. Who are the two of you looking for? I'll go inform them. It's none of your business. Yin Luyun said impatiently. He and Tang Zheng strode into the hall and saw Grandma Li from afar. And standing opposite her was a man, Ji Wuxiang. Tang Zheng and Yin Luyun looked at each other. Neither of them had expected to see Ji Wuxiang, whose whereabouts were uncertain, in the Go Club. Grandma Li, I know your strength, but I am a person who stands aloof from worldly affairs. I like to play Go, and I have no interest in the grand plan you speak of. From afar, they heard Ji Wuxiang's voice full of vigor and politeness. No matter what, he always seemed to be like this, neither hot nor cold, very gentlemanly. President Ji, I'm giving you a chance. The backer behind you is already in a precarious situation. Do you really think you can protect yourself in the future troubled times? I'm showing you the right way. Don't be so ungrateful. Others may be afraid of you, but I, Grandma Li, am not. Grandma Li's attitude was obviously very bad, and her tone was unkind. Ji Wuxiang did not get angry and said gently, "Of course I know Grandma Li's ability very well. You're not exaggerating at all. But I, Ji Wuxiang, only want things to go according to my heart. If they don't go according to my heart, I won't agree even if I have to die." Grandma Li sneered. "Go according to your heart. You have a backbone. If you die, let's see how your heart will go. I am a person who is afraid of death, but I also want to follow my heart. Isn't there a way to get the best of both worlds?" Ji Wuxiang sighed and said helplessly. Grandma Li's face became ferocious, and she said, "How can there be such a good thing in the world? I've come to find you time and time again because I thought you were a smart person. I wanted to save your life and point out a clear path for you. Now it seems that you refuse to realize your error, so don't blame me for being ruthless." Chapter 1022. Tang Zheng and Yin Luyan were very surprised to see this scene. They had thought that both sides were in cahoots, but it turned out that Granny Li wanted to force Ji Wuxiang to submit. There was no doubt that Ji Wuxiang had a lot of power, and Granny Li probably wanted to take his resources for her own use. After all, Li Palace was no longer the same as before, and she was almost a commander without an army. In addition, Granny Li's action was probably not her own idea, but more likely an order from the High Lord. The High Lord must have some ulterior motive and needed Ji Wuxiang's help. No matter what the other party's purpose was, Granny Li must be stopped. Granny Li made her move, and her murderous aura soared to the sky, as if she was determined to kill. Ji Wuxiang was locked on by Granny Li's aura, so he could not escape. He could only watch as Granny Li's skinny hand grabbed his throat. Although there were other Go players in the Go Club, they could not stop her. It seemed that Ji Wuxiang would definitely die. "Stop!" Tang Zheng gave a deep roar as he charged towards Granny Li. His large hand reached out and grabbed Granny Li's back. Just as Granny Li's hand was about to hit Ji Wuxiang, she heard the sound of something breaking through the air and a familiar roar. Her face turned pale with fright as she flipped in the air and sent a palm towards Tang Zheng. Bang! The two palms collided, and Granny Li was sent flying, breaking a pillar and falling in a corner. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face was deathly pale. "Tang Zheng, it's you again. Why are you always haunting me?" Granny Li roared hysterically. Ji Wuxiang breathed a sigh of relief. His whole body went limp, and he staggered, almost falling. He looked at Tang Zheng, gasping for breath, and squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. "Young Master Tang, thank you for saving my life." Tang Zheng nodded slightly. At this moment, Granny Li seemed to understand that this operation had failed, so she got up in a sorry state and jumped up into the sky. Bang! A big hole appeared in the blue tiles of the roof. Granny Li rushed up the roof and fled. "Where are you going?" How could Tang Zheng watch helplessly as the cooked duck flew away? So he hurriedly chased after her. When his feet landed on the roof, he saw Granny Li, like a monkey, scampering into the nearby shopping mall. Unwilling to give up, Tang Zheng hurriedly chased after him. The shopping mall was bustling with people, and there was no sign of Granny Li. It was more difficult than finding a needle in a haystack. Tang Zheng angrily stomped his foot and gnashed his teeth. Granny Li is really cunning. She let her slip away so easily. If this Go Club hadn't been built in the midst of chaos, she wouldn't have been able to escape no matter what. A moment later, he returned to the Go Club. Although Ji Wuxiang was still in a state of shock, he was a tyrant after all. He quickly regained his composure on the surface and chatted happily with Yin Luyan. Seeing that Tang Zheng had returned, Yin Luyan hastily asked, "Where's Granny Li?" Tang Zheng helplessly shook his head. "She escaped. Alas, that's a pity." Yin Luyan sighed. Ji Wuxiang said, "This Granny Li is very cunning. This is also the downtown area. Young Master Tang doesn't need to worry about it. She escaped this time, but it won't be so easy next time. It's all thanks to young Master Tang and young Master Yan's help. Otherwise, my life would have been lost to Granny Li's evil hands. Tang Zheng stared at Ji Wuxiang without saying a word. Ji Wuxiang was startled and fell into contemplation. After a while, he said in a deep voice, I know young Master Tang has a lot of questions. Feel free to ask. I'll tell you everything I know. Good. Since Manager Ji is so straightforward, I won't beat around the bush. What is Granny Li's purpose for coming to Manager Ji? Tang Zheng asked straightforwardly. Ji Wuxiang smiled bitterly. What purpose could there be? They want to win me over. They want me to submit to the Azure Dragon Palace. Submit to the Azure Dragon Palace? Tang Zheng's head moved. The Azure Dragon Palace was a very strict organization. Why would they want to recruit talents? But after thinking about it, he felt relieved. The Azure Dragon Palace had lost many people at his hands. The martial organization, Li Palace, and Sword Pavilion were all out of their control. The High Lords would naturally want to add new blood and restore the Azure Dragon Palace's glory. But the Azure Dragon Palace had always attached great importance to martial strength. Although Ji Wuxiang had a lot of power, he was still just an ordinary person. What did the High Lords see in him? A man fears fame just as a pig fears being fat. I, Ji Wuxiang, have been living in seclusion for the past few years. I have tried my best not to show myself in public because I was afraid of this kind of trouble. But now it seems that my actions were not effective. In the end, I was targeted by the Azure Dragon Palace. The Azure Dragon Palace is more terrifying than the other powers. They eat people without spitting out the bones. So, how could I dare to agree to them? Ji Wuxiang was very bitter as he sighed. Tang Zheng stared straight at Ji Wuxiang as if he wanted to discern the truth in his words. But he could not find a single flaw. Director Ji, if I may ask, what did the Azure Dragon Palace see in you when they asked you to submit? Tang Zheng asked without any trace of politeness. Ji Wuxiang was slightly startled. He hesitated as his expression flickered. Tang Zheng's head trembled. His face was gloomy as he unhappily said, Director Ji, if you still have any misgivings, then we will take our leave. As for the matters between you and the Azure Dragon Palace, I will no longer ask about it. Ji Wuxiang seemed to have been poked in his weak spot. He quickly stood up and said, Young Master Tang, you misunderstand. How could I have misunderstood anything? I will say it. Tang Zheng coldly laughed. If I don't force you, you will continue to pretend. I guess the Azure Dragon Palace has taken a fancy to my Go Club. Ji Wuxiang weakly said, Go Club? Tang Zheng and Yin Luyan looked at each other in confusion. This was just an ordinary Go Club. Why would the Azure Dragon Palace take a fancy to it? Ji Wuxiang smiled and said, I did not tell you two the truth before. Actually, this Go Club is not as simple as you think. What you see is only the surface. Oh, then I'm interested to hear more. Tang Zheng's sword-like eyebrows rose as he said with interest. I don't know if you two still remember the words I said last time. The world is a Go game. Ji Wuxiang asked. Tang Zheng thought for a moment and nodded. I still have a bit of an impression. Yin Luyun had long forgotten, but there was nothing wrong with these words. He did not understand why Ji Wuxiang would mention these words again. The world is a Go game. Each of us is a Go piece. If we can comprehend the profound meaning of this Go game, then we can play this Go game. Ji Wuxiang spoke tirelessly. Tang Zheng nodded inwardly. He still had a bit of an impression of these words. At the time, he thought that they were exaggerations, but now it seemed that there was a deeper meaning to them. I have been obsessed with Go since I was young. These years, I have spent a great deal of energy studying Go. Finally, I have made some progress and comprehended the profound meaning of the Go game. Last time, you also saw that the Go pieces of my Go players are very special. They are as heavy as 1,000 pounds, but in their hands, they can lift them as if they were light. They are no different from ordinary Go pieces. This is because I have comprehended the profound meaning of the Go game. Yin Luyun listened to these mysterious words and felt that it was inconceivable. He could not help but interrupt. Director Ji, we all know that you are very powerful and very smart, but what you said is too mysterious. It sounds like a myth. Myth, huh? Hee hee. Ji Wuxiang gave a deep smile and looked at Tang Zheng. Young Master Tang, you are a cultivator, so of course you are aware of the many mysterious techniques and methods cultivators have. Although my words are inconceivable, do you think that they're true? Tang Zheng's experience was much more abundant than Yin Liuyun's. When he heard these words, he did not deny it and instead said, Director Ji, please continue. Yin Luyun saw Tang Zheng's reaction and knew that he believed most of what he said. There was nothing he could do, so he could only continue to listen to Ji Wuxiang talk nonstop. The Go game that I've comprehended is called Heaven's Go. If one is placed in it and is unable to solve the Go game, then they will be trapped in the Go game and never be able to rise again. Ji Wuxiang said, Never be able to rise again? What a big tone. Yin Luyun disapprovingly curled his lips. Tang Zheng's head moved. Could it be that Ji Wuxiang really created this kind of Go game? If the power was as he said, then it was really terrifying. The Heaven's Go game is very complicated and cannot have the slightest mistake. Otherwise, the slightest mistake will lead to a huge error. Only someone who is very familiar with Go games can set up this Go game. And in this world, only I could do it. I don't know how the Azure Dragon Palace got this information, so I guess they came for this Heaven's Go game. Since you have this kind of method, why didn't you resist? Could it be that you want me to just watch as Granny Li kills you? Tang Zheng asked. Ji Wuxiang smiled bitterly. How could I resist? The Heaven's Go game is very difficult to set up. It is not something that can be completed in a day or night. How could I have expected that Grandma Li would be so cruel and merciless? She actually wanted to take my life without saying a word. Tang Zheng had been thinking about the flaws in Ji Wuxiang's words. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration and noticed the surrounding Go players. Those heavy Go pieces were as light as a feather in their hands. Could it be that they were also proficient in Heaven's Go? Tang Zheng immediately asked. Ji Wuxiang gave Tang Zheng a thumbs up and sincerely praised. Young Master Tang is really meticulous. You actually thought of this point. You were partly right and partly wrong. Oh, then I want to hear what was right and what was wrong. Without a doubt, Tang Zheng's curiosity was completely aroused by Ji Wuxiang. Those Go players are indeed proficient in the way of Heaven's Go, but they are not proficient in it. They only know a part of it. Only by gathering everyone together and coordinating them under my command can I complete the Heaven's Go game. I am the core of the Heaven's Go game. These Go players are the ones I have nurtured for many years. They practice the Heaven's Go game every day so that they can play a role in the future when I set up the Heaven's Go game. Hearing this, Tang Zheng and Yin Luyun couldn't help but look at those Go players with calm expressions. Every Go player needed to be calm when playing so that they could deal with possible dangers and not lose the game because of their emotions. These Go players were even more so. Chapter 1023. In the eyes of Tang Zheng and Yin Luyun, these seemingly mediocre and powerless chess players immediately grew in stature. Of course, they couldn't help but look at Ji Wuxiang, who had created this opportunity, in a new light. They finally understood why the Azure Dragon Hall was so eager to rope in Ji Wuxiang. The High Lord probably also understood that he was no match for Tang Zheng, so he placed his hopes on this heavenly chess. Fortunately, they had already arranged for people to be stationed at the Go Club. Otherwise, they definitely wouldn't have discovered this matter, and it was even more likely that the other party would succeed. During this period of time, Granny Li has been constantly persuading me. I originally didn't want to pay attention to her, but when I thought of the Azure Dragon Hall's illustrious reputation, I felt that it wouldn't do to just ignore her. So, I also did some work specifically to target them. Ji Wuxiang's emotions calmed down, and a sneer hung on the corner of his mouth. Oh, what kind of work? Tang Zheng asked curiously. Ji Wuxiang was being bullied to the point of being above his head, and with his temper, it was impossible for him to not do anything. Sure enough, Ji Wuxiang said, I used various methods and finally determined Granny Li's hiding place. Tang Zheng and Yin Luyun looked at each other. The people sent by Yin Luyan hadn't found any reliable information at all. They didn't expect that Ji Wuxiang would beat them to it. Once they knew where Granny Li was hiding, it would naturally be of great use. Tang Zheng couldn't wait to ask, "Then where is she hiding?" Ji Wuxiang immediately gave him an address. Tang Zheng turned around and left without looking back, saying, "Young Master Yin, you stay here first. I'll be back soon." As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared without a trace. In the west of the city, in a quiet house, a figure flashed and directly jumped over the wall of the courtyard. Immediately, a few feminine shouts rang out. "Who is it?" Whoosh! 10 or so attacks came unexpectedly, one after another flying towards Tang Zheng. Before Tang Zheng's feet touched the ground, his body spun, creating a whirlwind. With a series of clanging sounds, he repelled the incoming enemies and landed firmly on the ground. His eyes were like lightning as he looked at this group of people. "It's you!" Cries of surprise rang out again. The 10 or so pretty girls all stared at Tang Zheng. They were both shocked and angry. So, it was Li Xiaoyan Xiao by face. That slut took over the magpie's nest, betrayed the palace master, and seized the Li Palace. Now you actually dare to deliver yourself to my doorstep? Where's that slut Li Xiaoyan? Was she here as well? Tell her to come out and hide in the back like a coward. Yingyu's face was as cold as ice as she scolded. As the direct disciple of Granny Li, her life had undergone earth-shattering changes. She had become like a stray dog, hiding in the courtyard of the capital. All of this was thanks to Li Xiaotian. Her anger towards Li Xiaotian was difficult to conceal. Of course, she also did not have a good impression of Tang Zheng. Although her voice was stern, her heart was filled with worry. Her whereabouts had been exposed. If other enemies came to attack, then they might not be a match for them. The palace master had not returned after leaving, and she did not know where he went. What should she do? At present, she could only temporarily stabilize the other side and wait for the palace master to come back and deal with him. Tang Zheng also recognized Yingyu and said, "So it wasn't just Granny Li who came to the capital. Even you remnants of the Li Palace came with her. We are the legitimate members of the Li Palace. That slut Li Xiaotian is a traitor," Yingyu loudly retorted. Tang Zheng did not want to be entangled with the other side and asked, "Where is Granny Li?" Just now, she escaped. Now that she has nowhere to run, let her come out and see me. As a grand expert, she shouldn't be too afraid to show her face, right? Yingyu's expression suddenly changed as she cried out in alarm. "What did you say? You've seen the palace master?" "Of course. Just now she escaped. Now, she won't be so lucky." Yingyu's heart thumped as her mind madly jumped. Suddenly realizing that the situation was bad, she gradually began to think of retreating. She no longer hoped for the palace master to save her, so she loudly shouted, "Kill him!" Then, like a loach, she retreated backwards. The others quickly rushed forward and fiercely attacked Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a cold light as he attacked like lightning. The person at the front was struck in the throat and immediately fell to the ground, unable to get up. The others also followed in his footsteps. None of them could withstand a single blow and were knocked down one after another. Compared to the current Tang Zheng and these ordinary martial artists, one was in the sky and one was on the ground. Even if the other side had more people, they would not be of much use. Everyone fell to the ground, but Yingyu had just jumped onto the courtyard wall, trying to escape. Tang Zheng casually broke off a branch and turned it into a sharp sword, which flew towards Yingyu with a so sound. "Ah!" Yingyu screamed and fell from the courtyard wall. Struggling to get up, she found that the place where her leg had been hit was painful, as if it had been broken. Her eyes flashed with despair as she raised her head to look, coincidentally meeting Tang Zheng's gaze. "Now you can't escape. Be honest, where is Granny Li now?" Tang Zheng asked coldly. "I don't know." Yingyu's answer was resolute. "You want me to betray the palace master? In your dreams. Is that so? Then I will make you wish you were dead. That feeling won't be good. In the end, you will still tell me," Tang Zheng said lightly. Yingyu shuddered, her eyes filled with fear, but she still gritted her teeth and refused to speak. Dream on. I don't know the whereabouts of the palace master. Even if I did, I would never tell you. Tang Zheng did not believe her. Since she was an enemy, there was no need to be merciful, so he directly used his soul-searching technique. Ingyu screamed and tried to resist, but in the end, she fell to the ground weakly and became a fool. Tang Zheng narrowed his eyes slightly. The information obtained from the soul-searching technique showed that she was not lying. She really did not know the whereabouts of Granny Li. It was just that Tang Zheng had figured out their whereabouts during this time. Since the defeat of the Li Palace, they had come to the capital and were all placed in this courtyard by Granny Li. From then on, Granny Li left early and returned late. No one knew what she was busy with. No one knew. Just like prisoners, they stayed in this small courtyard every day. Granny Li was very dignified, so even if they had doubts in their hearts, no one dared to question or ask. They believed that the palace master must have her own plans and would make a comeback in the near future. But it seemed that they would not live to see that day. Tang Zheng let out a long sigh. Even Ingyu did not know, let alone the others. This trip could be considered a waste of time. What he did not know was that outside the courtyard, there was a pair of eyes looking at this courtyard from afar. This was Granny Li. On the road, in order to make sure that she had completely gotten rid of Tang Zheng, she deliberately took a long detour and finally determined that there was no tail, so she hurried back. But before she reached the door, she found that Ingyu had jumped up the wall and then fell down with a scream. Granny Li originally wanted to rescue her, but in the next second, she stopped and glared at the courtyard as if she was about to spit fire. She knew that her disciples had been completely wiped out, so if she rushed in, she would only be throwing her life away. She gritted her teeth, and with a poof, her fingers left long scratches on the trunk of a nearby tree. She took a few deep breaths, suppressing the anger in her heart. Ingyu, I will definitely avenge you. Granny Li murderously muttered to herself in a low voice, then took a deep look at the courtyard, turned around, and left. Tang Zheng naturally did not know that he had brushed past Granny Li and returned in disappointment. As for the disciples of the Li Palace, he had left them to the Yin family to deal with. When Ji Wuxiang saw Tang Zheng return, his butt seemed to have been installed with springs, and he jumped up from the chair and anxiously asked, "Young Master Tang, did you catch Granny Li?" Tang Zheng shook his head. "I didn't see her." She must have known that the matter was exposed, so she ran away and only caught some small fish and shrimps. Ji Wuxiang was extremely disappointed and sighed. I should have told young Master Tang this news earlier. Perhaps Granny Li would not have been able to escape. There is no if. Tang Zheng shook his head. Since the Azure Dragon Palace has already set their sights on Chief Ji, with their style of doing things, they will definitely not give up. What does Chief Ji plan to do next? Ji Wuxiang's face was difficult. How can I be a match for the Azure Dragon Palace? Although I have the Celestial Chess, it is very complicated to set up this chess game. It is not something that can be done in a day. So, it seems that I will not be able to escape this calamity. Tang Zheng disagreed. Chief Ji must be joking. Your connections are unparalleled, and you have been doing well in the capital these past few years. No one dares to provoke you. This is a great ability, so how can there be no way? AI, Granny Li is right about one thing. The backing behind me is already on the verge of collapse. My good days are coming to an end. Ji Wuxiang shook his head and sighed. Tang Zheng and Yin Luyin looked at each other, their eyes flashing with a strange light. There was no doubt that Ji Wuxiang was extremely mysterious to the public. Even the great families knew very little about him. They only knew that he had a lot of power and that there were very few things that he could not handle. Everyone guessed that he had a great backer, but no one knew who it was. Ji Wuxiang looked at the two and smiled bitterly. I know how you guys usually guess about me. In my line of work, the more mysterious and unpredictable I am, the better. This is my best protection. Since I am indebted to the two of you for saving my life, I, Ji Wuxiang, will not hide anything from you. I, Ji Wuxiang, have always been clear about gratitude and grudges. So, there is no harm in telling you. Tang Zheng and Yin Luyan both opened their eyes wide in curiosity, waiting for his answer. When they heard Ji Wuxiang say a name, Tang Zheng and Yin Liuyun's faces changed dramatically, because this name was too famous. It was a person who was as famous as the chief in power, and even more senior. Ji Wuxiang seemed to have expected the two's reaction. He continued, "These years, I have obtained too many benefits for him. So, in the eyes of the upper class, I am a thorn in their side. Many people want to take me down. My backer is old enough, and he is at a disadvantage in this power struggle. But is not clean either. In recent years, the tiger hunting operation has been in full swing, and he is lacking a real tiger. So, I am afraid that my backer will become this tiger and be knocked off his pedestal." Tang Zheng was overwhelmed with shock. There were actually so many secrets that no one knew. Chapter 1024. In order to avoid arousing the suspicions of the five-clawed golden dragon, Tang Zheng brought Xiao Bai and little Yu Yu out of the imperial city. The harvest this time was quite bountiful, allowing him to come into contact with a brand new world. The legend of the Dragon Slayer made his heart surge. It turned out that there were such powerful people in this world. The Dragon Clan was not always high and mighty and invincible. As long as they were strong enough, there was no need to fear any enemy. The sky revealed a white belly, and the rising sun illuminated the capital, turning it into a golden yellow. At the end of August, the capital was very hot. Even early in the morning, there was an impulse to soak in ice water. Tang Zheng had long been immune to the cold and heat. He sat in the courtyard and watched the rising sun. Xiao Bai rode little Yu Yu back and forth in the courtyard, as if he was patrolling his own territory. Fang Shishir went to school to prepare for the new students. Lu Qingmei went to work, and went out early in the morning to work on the jewelry. Marshall was not idle either. He was cultivating in the training room. Speaking of the training room, this was something that the women fiddled with. They tidied up a basement and then transformed it into a training room. There were many weapons in it, and there was also a battle room. The women would occasionally have a battle practice on a whim. Tang Zheng had seen it once, and could not help but admit that when women fought, they were really valiant. Especially when women fought against women, they did not have much tenderness for the fairer sex. In their words, practice should be the same as actual combat, with real swords and real spears. Only then would they be able to display their full potential. It was precisely because of this that the women's passion for training was high, because everyone wanted to win in the training. If they failed, they would definitely think a way to get back at them next time. Looking at their tenacity, Tang Zheng praised them a few times, causing the women to be even more motivated. In fact, they were very clear that as Tang Zheng's strength increased, if they did not improve themselves, they would always be protected by Tang Zheng. If they were powerless, they would be a burden. No one wanted to be weak. They were in contact with the strong all day long, so this idea was especially strong. After all, leisure time was short. Yin Luyan hurriedly rushed over. Seeing his leisurely appearance, he sat down on a nearby chair and crossed his legs. "Young Master Tang, your days are too comfortable." Tang Zheng looked at him with a smile and said, "You're the young master of the Yin family. Are you having a hard time?" "Of course. You don't know how busy I've been these days." "Oh, why?" Yin Luyan stared wide-eyed at Tang Zheng and said, "Why? It's all because of you. Didn't you want to find the whereabouts of the Azure Dragon Halls, High Lord? How could we dare to be negligent? We practically turned the entire capital upside down." "Oh, what did you find?" Tang Zheng asked curiously. "Don't you know who I am? I've been busy for so long. If I didn't find anything, how could I have a nerve to come see you?" "Of course I found something," Yin Luyan said proudly. He and Tang Zheng were already completely familiar with each other. He was not as cautious as the elders in his family. Instead, he was getting closer and closer to Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily. "Don't keep me in suspense. I've worked so hard for so long. How could you not let me show off a little?" "All right, since you're so impatient, I'll tell you. The High Lord's whereabouts are very mysterious. We couldn't find him, but we found the whereabouts of another person. Oh, Grandma Li. It's her. Tang Zheng was shocked. When Grandma Li returned to the Li Palace, she didn't get any benefits. In the end, she took a few disciples and fled. He didn't expect her to come to the capital. Yes, this Granny Li is an expert. If it was in the past, we really wouldn't have dared to target her. But things are different now. With an expert like you, even the Palace Master of Li Palace has fallen from the altar. Don't be ridiculous. Where's Grandma Li now? Guess. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes. I'm not a fortune teller. Don't tell me I can figure out with my fingers. All right, I'll tell you. She went to Ji Wuxiang's Go Club. Fortunately, you reminded us many times to pay attention to this Go Club, so we were able to find out. Go Club. Tang Zheng was shocked. Why did Grandma Li go to the Go Club? Could it be she had a connection with Ji Wuxiang? Tang Zheng had always been on guard against Ji Wuxiang. The main reason was that this person was too bizarre, so he couldn't help but be on guard. When a person hid themselves too deeply and too secretively, it was usually because there was something that couldn't be revealed. Ji Wuxiang was like this. He had such great power, but he was like a transparent person. Tang Zheng couldn't figure him out, so he naturally didn't dare to underestimate him. Yes, Grandma Li went to the Go Club, but we lost track of her after she came out. After all, she's a martial king. How can we follow her? Yin Luyun said regretfully. Have you seen her since then? You don't say. My people have seen her. She goes to the Go Club every once in a while. It's very regular. Yin Luyun said doubtfully. Tang Zheng thought for a moment, then suddenly asked, Then when will she go to the Go Club next time? Today. Tang Zheng stood up and said impatiently, Let's go. Let's go meet Grandma Li and see what she's up to. Xiao Bai and little Yu jumped out and shouted, Master, we want to go too. Yin Luyun was so frightened by this scene that he sat on the ground and shouted in panic, It can talk. He had seen Xiao Bai before, but he had never seen it speak. Now that he saw it, he was really scared to death. Tang Zheng was used to it and said, Please, it's not like you don't know about demonic beasts. What's there to be surprised about? Xiao Bai's strength has increased, so it's not strange that it can talk. Yin Luyun got up and looked at Xiao Bai in shock. Xiao Bai looked at him with disdain and said, So cowardly. Yin Luyun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was being looked down on by an animal. Then who is it? Yin Luyun pointed at the scarlet lunar beast and asked, You're not a zoologist, so don't get to the bottom of it. Xiao Bai, you and little Yu stay at home and don't run around. I'm going out for a bit. Tang Zheng instructed. Xiao Bai didn't force him and obediently rode little Yu to the side. Yin Luyun looked at their backs and sighed. The animals in your house have all become spirits. The people who come to your house must have a good heart. Otherwise, they'll be scared to death. The two of them came to a secret spot on the street opposite the Go Club. The people who were waiting there quickly came to welcome them. Is she here? Yin Luyun asked. Reporting to young Master Yin, she hasn't arrived yet, but I think she'll be here soon. She's here. Tang Zheng suddenly interrupted the two of them and stared at a figure in the distance. This person was Grandma Li. She didn't put on any makeup and swaggered into the Go Club. It's really her. Tang Zheng was all too familiar with Grandma Li. A person's face could be changed, but it was extremely difficult to change their temperament. What should we do? Yin Luyun asked. Tang Zheng looked at the door of the Go Club from afar and said, Let's go in too. Just like that? Yin Luyun asked in surprise. Shouldn't we be following her and then investigating her real purpose? Huh. Grandma Li has many tricks up her sleeve. Even I don't have absolute confidence that I can follow her. In that case, in order to prevent her from slipping away, why don't we go in and block her and see what she's doing in the Go Club? Tang Zheng said. Seeing that he had made up his mind, Yin Luyun nodded happily. Okay, let's go in together. Ever since I heard you say that this Go Club isn't simple, I really want to go in and explore it. Now let's take a good look this time and see what Ji Wuxiang is selling in his gourd. Tang Zheng said. The two of them strode towards the Go Club. The doorman didn't stop them, but recognized them and greeted them warmly. Would you two like to play a game? The doorman led the two in and asked respectfully. Tang Zheng didn't speak and secretly spread out his divine sense. He immediately found Grandma Li's aura and said, We're looking for someone. After saying that, he walked straight in the direction of Grandma Lee. The doorman's face immediately changed, and he said, "Everyone here is a Go player." Chapter 1025. Tang Zheng and Yin Luyan were surprised by this scene. They had thought that the two sides were in cahoots, but turned out that Granny Li wanted to force Ji Wuxiang to submit. There was no doubt that Ji Wuxiang had a lot of power, and Granny Li probably wanted to take his resources for her own use. After all, Li Palace was no longer the same as before, and she was almost a commander without an army. In addition, Granny Li's action was probably not her own idea, but more likely an order from the High Lord. The High Lord must have some ulterior motive and needed Ji Wuxiang's help. No matter what the other side's purpose was, Granny Li's action must be stopped. Granny Li made her move, and her murderous aura soared to the sky, as if she was determined to kill. Ji Wuxiang was locked on by Granny Li's aura and could not escape. He could only watch as Granny Li's skinny hand reached for his throat. Although there were other Go players in the club, they could not stop her. Ji Wuxiang seemed to be dead for sure. "Stop!" Tang Zheng gave a deep roar as he charged towards Granny Li. His large hand reached out and grabbed Granny Li's back. Granny Li's hand was about to hit Ji Wuxiang when she heard the sound of something breaking through the air and a familiar roar behind her. She turned pale with fright and flipped in the air, her palms striking at Tang Zheng. Bang! The two palms collided and Granny Li was sent flying, crashing into a pillar and falling in a corner. She spat out a mouthful of blood and her face was deathly pale. "Tang Zheng, it's you again. Why are you always haunting me?" Granny Li roared hysterically. Ji Wuxiang breathed a sigh of relief. His whole body went limp and he staggered, almost falling down. Panting, he looked at Tang Zheng and squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. "Young Master Tang, thank you for saving my life." Tang Zheng nodded slightly. At this moment, Granny Li seemed to understand that the operation had failed, so she got up and leaped into the sky. Bang! A big hole appeared in the blue tiles of the roof. Granny Li jumped up and fled. "Where are you going?" How could Tang Zheng watch helplessly as the cooked duck flew away? So he hurriedly chased after her. When his feet landed on the roof, he saw Granny Li, like a monkey, scampering into the nearby shopping mall. Unwilling to give up, Tang Zheng hurriedly chased after him. The shopping mall was bustling with people, and there was no sign of Granny Li. It was more difficult than finding a needle in a haystack. Tang Zheng angrily stomped his foot and gnashed his teeth. Granny Li is really cunning. She let her slip away so easily. If this Go Club hadn't been built in the midst of chaos, she wouldn't have been able to escape no matter what. A moment later, he returned to the Go Club. Although Ji Wuxiang was still in a state of shock, he was a tyrant after all. He quickly regained his composure on the surface and chatted happily with Yin Luyan. Seeing that Tang Zheng had returned, Yin Luyan hastily asked, "Where is Granny Li?" Tang Zheng helplessly shook his head. "She escaped. Alas, that's a pity." Yin Luyan sighed. Ji Wuxiang said, "This Granny Li is very cunning. This is also the downtown area. Young Master Tang doesn't need to worry about it. She escaped this time, but it won't be so easy next time. It's all thanks to young Master Tang and young Master Yan's help. Otherwise, my life would have been lost to Granny Li's evil hands." Tang Zheng stared at Ji Wuxiang without saying a word. Ji Wuxiang was startled and fell into contemplation. After a while, he said in a deep voice, "I know young Master Tang has a lot of questions. Feel free to ask. I will tell you everything I know." "Good. Since Manager Ji is so straightforward, I won't beat around the bush. What is Granny Li's purpose in coming to Manager Ji?" Tang Zheng asked straightforwardly. Ji Wuxiang smiled bitterly and said, "What other purpose could there be? They're trying to bribe me. They want me to submit to the Azure Dragon Palace." "Submit to the Azure Dragon Palace?" Tang Zheng's head moved. The Azure Dragon Palace was a very strict organization. Why would they want to recruit talents? But after thinking about it, he felt relieved. The Azure Dragon Palace had lost a lot of people at his hands. The martial organization, Lee Palace, and Sword Pavilion were all out of their control. The High Lords would naturally want to add new blood and restore the Azure Dragon Palace's glory. But the Azure Dragon Palace had always placed great importance on martial strength. Although Ji Wuxiang had a lot of power, he was still just an ordinary person. What did the High Lords see in him? A man fears fame just as a pig fears being fat. I, Ji Wuxiang, have been living in seclusion for the past few years. I have tried my best not to show myself in public because I was afraid of this kind of trouble. Now it seems that my actions were not effective. In the end, I was targeted by the Azure Dragon Palace. The Azure Dragon Palace is more terrifying than the other powers. They eat people without spitting out the bones. So, how could I dare to agree to them? Ji Wuxiang was very bitter as he sighed. Tang Zheng stared straight at Ji Wuxiang, as if he wanted to discern the truth in his words. But he could not find a single flaw. Director Ji, if I may ask, what did the Azure Dragon Palace see in you when they asked you to submit to them? Tang Zheng asked without any trace of politeness. Ji Wuxiang was slightly startled. He hesitated as his expression flickered. Tang Zheng's head trembled. His face was gloomy as he unhappily said, Director Ji, if you still have any misgivings, then we will take our leave. As for the matters between you and the Azure Dragon Palace in the future, I will no longer ask about it. Ji Wuxiang seemed to have been poked in his weak spot. He quickly stood up and said, Young Master Tang misunderstands. How could I have misunderstood? I'll say it. Tang Zheng coldly laughed. If I don't force you, you'll continue to pretend. I guess that the Azure Dragon Palace has taken a fancy to my Go Club. Ji Wuxiang weakly said, Go Club? Tang Zheng and Yin Luyin looked at each other in confusion. This was just an ordinary Go Club. Why would the Azure Dragon Palace take a fancy to this place? Ji Wuxiang smiled and said, I didn't tell you the truth before. Actually, this Go Club is not as simple as you think it is. What you see is only the surface. Oh, then I'm interested to hear more. Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows and said with interest, I don't know if you two still remember what I said last time. The world is a Go game. Ji Wuxiang asked. Tang Zheng thought for a while and nodded. I have a bit of an impression of it. Yin Luyin had long since forgotten, but there was nothing wrong with this sentence. He did not understand why Ji Wuxiang would bring it up again. The world is a Go game. Each of us is a Go piece. If we can comprehend the profound meaning of this Go game, then we can play this Go game. Ji Wuxiang spoke tirelessly. Tang Zheng nodded inwardly. He still had a bit of an impression of these words. At the time, he thought that they were exaggerations, but now it seemed that there was a deeper meaning to them. I've been obsessed with Go since I was young. I've spent a lot of energy studying Go and finally made some progress. I've comprehended the profound meaning of the Go game. Last time, you also saw that the Go pieces here are very special. They are as heavy as 1,000 pounds, but in their hands, they can lift them as if they were light. They're no different from ordinary Go pieces. This is because I've comprehended the profound meaning of the Go game. Yin Luyun listened to these mysterious words and felt that it was inconceivable. He could not help but interrupt. Director Ji, we all know that you are very powerful and very smart, but what you said is too mysterious. It sounds like a myth. Myth, huh? Hee. Ji Wuxiang smiled meaningfully and looked at Tang Zheng. Young Master Tang, you are a cultivator. Of course you are aware of the many mysterious techniques and methods cultivators have. Although my words are inconceivable, do you think it is possible for them to be true? Tang Zheng's experience was obviously much richer than Yin Luyin. After hearing these words, he did not deny it. Instead, he said, Director Ji, please continue. Yin Luyin saw Tang Zheng's reaction and knew that he was 70 to 80% convinced. There was nothing he could do, so he could only continue to listen to Ji Wuxiang talk nonstop. The Go game that I've comprehended is called Heaven's Go. If you're placed in it and are unable to solve the Go game, then you'll be trapped in the Go game forever. Ji Wuxiang said, Forever unable to turn over? What a big tone. Yin Luyin disapproved as he curled his lips. Tang Jing's head moved. Could it be that Ji Wuxiang had really created this kind of Go game? If the power was as he said, then it was really terrifying. The Heaven's Go game is very complicated. There can't be the slightest mistake. Otherwise, the slightest mistake will lead to a huge error. Only people who are very familiar with Go games can set up this Go game. And in this world, only I can do it. I don't know how the Azure Dragon Palace got this information, so I guess they came for this Heaven's Go game. Since you have this kind of method, why didn't you resist? Could it be that you wanted to watch as Granny Lee kills you? Tang Zheng asked. Ji Wuxiang smiled bitterly. How could I resist? This Heaven's Go game is very difficult to set up. It's not something that can be completed in a day or night. How could I have expected that Grandma Lee would be so cruel and merciless? She actually wanted to take my life without saying a word. Tang Zheng had been thinking about the flaws in Ji Wuxiang's words. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration and noticed the surrounding Go players. Those heavy Go pieces were as light as a feather in their hands. Could it be that they were also proficient in Heaven's Go? Tang Zheng immediately asked. Ji Wuxiang gave Tang Zheng a thumbs up and sincerely praised. Young Master Tang is really meticulous. You actually thought of this point. You were partly right and partly wrong. Oh, then I'd like to hear what was right and what was wrong. Without a doubt, Tang Zheng's curiosity was completely aroused by Ji Wuxiang. Those Go players are indeed proficient in the way of Heaven's Go, but they are not proficient in it. They only know a part of it. Only by gathering everyone together and coordinating them under my command can I complete the Heaven's Go game. I am the core of the Heaven's Go game. These Go players are the ones I have nurtured for many years. They practice the Heaven's Go game every day so that they can play a role in the future when I set up the Heaven's Go game. Hearing this, Tang Zheng and Yin Luyin couldn't help but look at those Go players with calm expressions. Every Go player needed to be calm when playing so that they could deal with possible crises and not lose the game because of their emotions. These Go players were even more so. Chapter 1026. Tang Zheng did not want to be involved in the power struggle of the upper echelons. He was not interested in the big backer behind Ji Wuxiang and calmly said, Chief Ji is a smart person. Naturally, he will have his own way to deal with the crisis in front of him. Ji Wuxiang smiled embarrassedly. Intelligence alone cannot solve everything. People must have strong strength. Otherwise, it can only be regarded as petty tricks. Young Master Tang is not only smart, but also has strong strength. This is the true invincible position. Yin Lian thought about it and looked at Ji Wuxiang and thought, listening to his tone, could it be that he wants to rely on Tang Zheng? This was very different from the Ji Wuxiang in his impression. He had always thought that Ji Wuxiang was omnipotent, but now it seemed that he was only SOSO. His previous reliance came from the backer behind him. Yin Lian could not help but look at Tang Zheng again. His heart was filled with emotion. No matter how strong a person was, when facing him, it seemed that they would be dwarfed. Young Master Tang, there is something that I don't know if I should say. Ji Wuxiang said hesitantly. What is it? My backer doesn't get along well with the chief you're in contact with. They've been fighting both openly and covertly. This time, he's bound to lose, and that chief's power and status will be greatly improved. As far as I know, you don't seem to have a good relationship with that chief. This is not a good thing for you, Ji Wuxiang said meaningfully. Tang Zheng's eyes trembled as he said, Thank you for the reminder. He and the chief were not on good terms, especially on the matter of the 5-clawed golden dragon. It could be said that he had completely gone against the chief's wishes. He had chosen to endure, but his heart was definitely filled with anger. As long as he was given the opportunity, he would definitely explode. Tang Zheng was very clear on this point, so Ji Wuxiang's reminder made Tang Zheng pay attention to it. He had to guard against the possible crisis. Chief Ji, if there is nothing else, we will take our leave. Thank you for your help. Forgive me for not seeing you off. Tang Zheng glanced at the numerous Go players and left the Go club under Yin Liyun's suspicious gaze. After walking across the street, Yin Liyan finally could not help but ask, Young Master Tang, Ji Wuxiang obviously wants to rely on you. Why don't you accept his offer? Tang Zheng shook his head. We don't know how trustworthy Ji Wuxiang's words are. Besides, he's not at the end of his rope yet. There's no need for us to intervene so early. Then aren't you worried that the heaven's chess piece in his hands will fall into the hands of others? Tang Zheng smiled and said, even though he brags to the heavens, but in the end, what you hear is false and what you see is true. Your people continue to keep an eye on him and see what other tricks he has up his sleeve. Yin Luyan nodded and said regretfully, it's a pity that Granny Li escaped this time. She's also a big scourge. Compared to the High Lord, she's just a small character. The most important thing now is to find the High Lord. He hasn't shown himself yet, so I suspect that he's brewing some big scheme. This is the calm before the storm. Tang Zheng said earnestly. Yin Luyun's face darkened as he nodded heavily. That's reasonable. What about the 100 Faces Star Sovereign? Is there any movement from him? Tang Zheng asked. We suspect that he's returned to the island nation, but he hasn't shown himself since. In a foreign country, it's not as easy for our people to investigate. Yin Luyun said somewhat helplessly. Tang Zheng nodded and said, with the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's personality, he definitely won't keep hiding. He's definitely plotting something. It doesn't matter if he doesn't show himself now. As long as we keep an eye on him, we'll find some clues. Yin Luyun explained, and then the two of them parted ways. At the same time, Granny Li arrived at a quiet place after escaping. She respectfully knocked on the door, and the door opened. She restrained her angry expression and calmed down a little. Then, she walked in with heavy steps. A moment later, she came in front of a person and bowed respectfully. High Lord, I've failed. Not only did I fail to take Ji Wuxiang for my own use, but I also attracted Tang Zheng. If I hadn't escaped fast enough, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to come back to see the High Lord. The High Lord's eyes flickered under the mask, making people shudder. He stared at Granny Li for a long time. Granny Li didn't dare to meet his eyes and lowered her head. It's all this subordinate's fault. Please punish me, High Lord. The High Lord looked at her with burning eyes and finally opened his mouth. This is an uncontrollable factor. Tang Zheng is my biggest enemy. The capital city is his base camp, and he has many eyes and ears. It's not surprising that he ruined our plan. Not only did he ruin our plan, but he also made me lose a lot of disciples. He's really hateful. Granny Li's eyes were almost spitting fire as she said hatefully. The High Lord was surprised. You lost all your disciples? Yes, I couldn't protect them. I'm really ashamed. Granny Li said dejectedly. Raise your head, this is not your fault. You just have to put on Tang Zheng's head. The High Lord said in a powerful voice. Granny Li restrained her emotions and asked, High Lord, Ji Wuxiang's plan is ruined. What should we do next? Humph, ruined? Who said so? He's already cornered. If he still dares to persist, I'll make him wish he was dead. The High Lord's voice was gloomy to the extreme, making people shudder. Granny Li nodded in agreement. The High Lord is wise. You should conserve your energy first. You'll be busy later. Don't go to Ji Wuxiang's side. They've already set up an ambush, so your whereabouts must have been exposed. That's why you were surrounded and intercepted by Tang Zheng. Granny Li's face reddened. I did notice people following me a few times, but I thought they were Ji Wuxiang's men. In the end, I successfully shook them off, so I didn't take it to heart. I didn't expect Tang Zheng's men to be among them. Why would he send people to watch the Go Club? Could it be that he also knew about the celestial chess? That's not it. Tang Zheng has always been on guard against Ji Wuxiang. With Tang Zheng's cautious style, it's impossible for him not to be on guard against such a mysterious existence. It's just that the time you went was too coincidental, and you were discovered by Tang Zheng's men. With just a few words, the High Lord had actually guessed the whole story. It had to be said that enemies often understood each other better. High Lord, after Song Yu left with the remnants of the Sword Pavilion, he still hasn't contacted you? Granny Li asked on a sudden whim. Now that the Azure Dragon Hall's manpower was sharply reduced, Granny Li would pay attention to people like Song Yu. If it were before, Song Yu wouldn't even enter his eyes. The High Lord laughed. His laughter penetrated through the mask and was somewhat strange. Song Yu is truly worthy of being the young master of the Song family. Not only is he meticulous, but he's also extremely cunning and ambitious. I've really underestimated it before. If he dares to play tricks in front of the High Lord, I'll directly take his little life," Granny Lee said fiercely. The High Lord pondered for a long time before slowly saying, "You don't need to worry about Song Yu. He can't escape from my grasp. I'm just waiting to see what kind of tricks he can play in the end, and whether he can give me a little surprise." Hearing him say this, Granny Lee didn't dare to say anything else and respectfully retreated. In the courtyard house, the bureau chief was sitting at his desk going through documents. During this period, he was in high spirits. The matter of the Imperial City and the five-clawed golden dragon had originally left him in a terrible fix and even became a stain on his opponent's attack. However, nothing was absolute. In the end, under the guidance of the High Lord, he actually turned defeat into victory and defeated his opponent. Although his opponent hadn't fallen yet, he was already at death's door. He believed that as long as he released his trump card, his opponent would definitely not have a chance to breathe and fall off the altar, becoming a sacrificial lamb. Winner takes all. It had always been like this. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but hum an old song. This was his favorite song when he was young. When he went to the countryside to cut the queue, he liked this song. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept past, and a person appeared in front of him. The bureau chief wasn't surprised. He had long been used to the other party's mysterious appearance. He put down the pen in his hand and raised his head. Sure enough, he saw the familiar mask of the High Lord. He was very wary of the High Lord in the beginning and used each other. However, now that the Azure Dragon Palace had suffered a great loss in the hands of Tang Zhong, the bureau chief was surprised, but also had an unexpected surprise. That was, the High Lord, who was at his wit's end, actually helped him greatly. This action against his opponent was a gift that made the bureau chief very satisfied. He often thought proudly in his heart, no matter how powerful the High Lord was, he still had the last laugh. These martial artists looked glamorous, but after all, they were rootless duckweeds. They didn't have the support of the country and didn't have the support of the people. They looked glamorous, but in reality, they could easily be defeated. Wasn't this the best proof? Although he would fail, he had the foundation and the support of the people, so he could still make a comeback. Therefore, he was the one who had the last laugh. When he looked at the High Lord, he wasn't as nervous and cautious as before. He casually pointed to the chair opposite him and said, "Have a seat. We can carry out the plan to deal with that old thing now. Let's move quickly." The High Lord nodded in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. "That old thing probably wouldn't even dream that I know so many dirty things about him. Ji Wuxiang, that white glove, has done so many dirty things for him. It seems like there's no evidence against him, but in fact, there are many things that could be used against him. This is his death warrant. Once the time is up, his old life will be taken away," the bureau chief said proudly. After a pause, the bureau chief continued, "Ji Wuxiang can't be allowed to continue living in this world. He knows too many things. You know what to do, right?" The High Lord nodded lightly. The bureau chief relaxed and said, "Ji Wuxiang is actually a talent. It's just that he stood on the wrong side and chose the wrong master. Naturally, what awaits him won't be a good ending. Your Azure Dragon Palace is really good at gathering information. You even know the dirty things that they do in private." The High Lord remained calm and said, "The opponent has been eliminated. What are your plans next?" Chapter 10:27. The Great Lord stared at the bureau chief and asked, "What do you think? Do you still remember the 100 Faces Star-Lord? I heard that you had dealings with him in the 100,000 Mountains," the bureau chief asked. The Great Lord nodded and looked at the bureau chief in confusion. The bureau chief enjoyed the feeling of not being able to see through him. It was a wonderful feeling to be in control of everything. That's all in the past. I hope you don't take it to heart. Now, the 100 Faces Star-Lord has taken root in the island nation and is very close to the royal family. This is really unexpected," the bureau chief said emotionally. The Great Lord remained silent. He didn't know what the bureau chief was up to. The bureau chief looked at him with a smile and revealed the answer. The royal family of the island nation has sent a message that they want to cooperate with us. The island nation used to be a dog that wagged its tail and begged the Atlantic Empire. Now that the Atlantic Empire no longer has the Rockefeller family, its power has decreased sharply. This dog naturally wants to find a new master. The rise of Huaxia is unstoppable, and we are so close to the island nation. Naturally, they want to rely on us. The Great Lord was silent for a while, as if digesting this news. After a long time, he said, "The island nation is ambitious. Moreover, they invaded Huaxia and have a long-standing feud with us. Cooperating with them is tantamount to plotting against a tiger." The bureau chief shook his head and looked at the Great Lord mockingly. "This is an old idea from decades ago. Our ideas must keep pace with the times to be the best. There are no eternal enemies in this world, only eternal benefits. This is especially important for us, the rulers. You're not an official, so naturally, you won't understand this. After all, the courage of an ignorant man doesn't have much practical use in this society." As he spoke, the bureau chief bent his finger and knocked on the table. Dong, dong, dong. The crisp sound seemed to remind the Great Lord. The Great Lord's eyes didn't change at all. He said softly, "Understood." The bureau chief knew when to stop and continued. "We can use the island nation's resources to deal with Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng has many experts around him. It's not so easy to deal with him," the Great Lord reminded. The bureau chief pursed his lips and said disapprovingly, "No matter how strong an individual is, there's a limit. It's the new era now. Haven't we still used those old ideas to deal with things?" Tang Zheng's business was so big, and this was his weakness. If the government made a move, it would be criticized by others, thinking that they were deliberately suppressing him. But if it's a threat from the outside world, then no one can say anything. The Great Lord's gaze turned cold. He stared at the bureau chief and said thoughtfully, "That makes sense. But what was the breakthrough point?" "We have to find a place to bite. Only then can we kill him. He has already delivered a breakthrough for us." "Oh, what breakthrough?" "They've recently developed a new drug, and they're bragging about it. They're sending it for approval. If there's a problem at this time, then we can break through their layers of protection. Of course, this kind of thing is best left to the people of the island nation." "How do I operate it?" The bureau chief smiled mysteriously and said, "There are specializations in every field. The people of the island nation are the best at scheming. They will naturally think of a specific solution. We just need to provide them with a breakthrough point." The Great Lord didn't ask further. The sun shone brightly in Beijing in September. Yenching University was bustling with people, and there were many new faces. It was time for the students to return to school. For Tang Zheng and the rest, they had already advanced from university rookies to second-year veterans. Their dresses were fluttering in the wind. Pairs of fiery eyes were searching for a target in the crowd. Fire, theft, and seniors. This group of seniors who were welcoming new students naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity, because this was a rare opportunity to get rid of being single. Tang Zheng didn't want to join in the fun at first, but he couldn't resist Yi Dingdang and Fang Shishir's persuasion and was dragged to school. Looking at the lively new faces, Tang Zheng couldn't help but think of the time when he first entered the school. At that time, he was just like them. The only difference was that his goal was more clear, or it could be said that he was more free and easy. One on the left and one on the right, two beauties accompanied each other, occasionally accompanied by some intimate actions. Without a doubt, this scene immediately attracted the attention of many people, especially the freshmen. All of them looked at him as if he was a monster. Whether it was Fang Shishir or Yi Dingdang, they were undoubtedly top-grade beauties, each with their own merits. As long as one could get the favor of one, then his life wouldn't be in vain, let alone two. The key was that the relationship between the three was too intimate, and it made people's imaginations run wild. "Senior, who is that person? So awesome?" A quick-witted freshman pulled the senior aside and asked, his eyes constantly wandering between Fang Shishir and Yi Dingdang. He was indignant and wanted to poach them. The senior rolled his eyes and looked at the junior like he was looking at an idiot. He patted him on the shoulder and said, "Don't say that I didn't take care of you. The first thing you should do after entering school is not to know who the principal is, but to know the person in front of you." The junior disagreed. "Senior, you're exaggerating. Who is he so awesome? You just have to remember that he's called Tang Zheng. Stay as far away from him as you can, and don't provoke him." The senior warned earnestly. Tang Zheng's fame in school was unmatched, and he was simply a living legend. The junior stared at Tang Zheng for a while, but he couldn't see anything different. He thought to himself, "Senior isn't lying to me, right? Or maybe Senior is interested in these two beauties, so he deliberately wants me to back off, so that there will be one less strong competitor like me." Just as this junior was daydreaming, a black Mercedes-Benz and a white luxury limousine drove over at lightning speed. A few students who were dragging their suitcases screamed in fright and were almost hit by the limousine. They were battered and exhausted. But a thin boy didn't dodge in time and was hit by the RV and fell to the ground. Too hateful, driving so fast in school. They don't care about other people's lives at all. It's simply murder. Someone was filled with righteous indignation. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of the door opening and closing rang out. Four strong men in black suits got out of the Mercedes-Benz and looked like bodyguards. They quickly moved to the door of the RV and respectfully opened the door. Ding, ding, ding. The crisp sound of high heels hitting the ground rang out, and a tall beauty walked out. Immediately, everyone was attracted by this beauty, and the angry voices came to an abrupt stop. "Wow, beauty! Who is this? Why does she look like a man-made beauty? Hey, you don't say. The more I look at her, the more she looks like our neighbor from Korea. She's definitely a man-made beauty. Look at her nose. It's definitely been done. She even had double eyelids and a sharp chin. Although I can't see her chest through her clothes, it's most likely fake. Brother, you have sharp eyes. You're an expert. My family runs a plastic surgery hospital. I can tell at a glance." Hearing the discussions of the crowd, everyone was guessing who this man-made beauty was and why her entrance was so flashy. The beauty ignored the boy who fell to the ground as if he didn't exist. She turned to the RV and said a few words. A light cough came from the RV, and then another person walked out. This person had a greasy hair and a powdery face. His body was thin like a bamboo pole. He wore earrings and dyed yellow hair. He had an unruly and frivolous appearance. He raised his head high and looked diagonally upwards. "Wow, it's Park Si-hoon, Appa." A few women screamed in the crowd, and then they rushed toward the man as if they were possessed. But without exception, they were all stopped by the 4 bodyguards. They couldn't get close to the man. Park Si-hoon casually waved his hand, causing the women to scream crazily. Their screams were as loud as a loudspeaker, causing many people to frown. The discussion in the crowd grew louder. "He's indeed a Korean. Park Si-hoon, an actor, is very popular now and is known as the national idol of Korea. TSK, idol like him? He's more like a bamboo pole." "I don't know what's wrong with these women's taste to fall for this kind of man." Someone snorted. When the women heard this, their faces changed. They became very ferocious and crazy, as if their ancestors' graves were dug up. They pointed at the boy and shouted at the top of their lungs, "What do you know? How can you compare with our Appa? You're just a pile of cow dung, and our Appa is the star in the sky. You don't have the right to talk about him." The boy was shocked, as if he didn't expect that his word would cause such a big reaction. His face turned red, and he didn't know what to do. It was as if the women had met the enemy who had killed their fathers. One after another, they began to crusade against him, talking nonstop. "Ouch, my leg hurts." A weak groan resounded. The boy who was hit by the car had a pale face as he touched his leg in pain. "You guys hit me. Don't go. My leg hurts, and it seems to be broken." Park Si-hoon and the rest acted as if they didn't see him and turned a deaf ear to him. They were about to leave, and they didn't want to care about the boy on the ground. "Is there still law? You guys are too much, not caring about me after hitting me." The boy was in pain and grievance. His face was red with tears flickering in his eyes. He struggled for a while and grabbed onto Park Si-hoon's pants. Park Si-hoon had no choice but to stop and look down at the boy. He curled his lips in disdain and said in stiff Hwaseong language, "Let go. No, you guys are too much, leaving after hitting me." The boy said in grievance. A trace of coldness flashed in Park Si-hoon's eyes as he kicked the boy's chest. Feeling the pain, the boy immediately let go of his hand and held onto his chest as he curled into a ball in pain. Wow, Appa is so handsome. Appa is a 9th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. How can this guy be his opponent? He's overestimating himself. I think this guy is trying to scam our Appa. Yeah, there are too many scammers nowadays. He actually dared to scam our Appa. I can't wait to give him a good beating. Chapter 10:28. The girls chattered incessantly, using obscenities and distorting the facts to accuse the boys. They looked especially pitiful as they curled up together. Park Si-hoon raised his head proudly with a smug smirk on his face. He strode away under the protection of his bodyguards. The girls' attention was immediately attracted by him, and they screamed, "Appa, I love you. Appa, you're so handsome. Stop right there." Suddenly, a loud and resounding shout rang out, and a person blocked their path. They had no choice but to stop. Park Si-hoon frowned and asked, "What are you doing?" Tang Zheng stared at them coldly. To be honest, he had not been so angry for a long time. He was not even this angry when he faced the Lord of Glory or the 100 Faces Star-Lord. His anger did not only come from these people's disregard for others, but also from those girls. They were Hwaseong people, but they did not care about the safety of their fellow countrymen for the sake of a few Koreans. They even used foul language and slandered and hurt their fellow countrymen. This kind of contempt for his fellow countrymen pierced Tang Zheng's heart. He still loved this country deeply. He despised and was angry at such behavior, so he had no choice but to stand up for them. The girls were freshmen and did not know Tang Zheng at all. They were enraged when they saw him. Before Park Si-hoon could say anything, they rushed over impatiently and shouted, "Who are you? Since when do you have the right to tell us what to do?" Tang Zheng looked at them pitifully. Yes, these girls were pitiful. They had lost their roots and souls as Hwaseong people. They were empty shells without souls. However, a pitiful person must have something to hate, so he did not sympathize with them. "Are you guys still Hwaseong people?" Tang Zheng asked. The girls were stunned and shouted, "Of course I'm Hwaseong. Then what are you doing?" "A Korean ran into one of our fellow countrymen, but you're helping the tyrant and denouncing your fellow countrymen. Are you guys blind? Is your heart crooked?" Tang Zheng's voice was as loud as a great bell, so loud that even the deaf could hear. When the girls heard this, they trembled and froze on the spot. But after a while, they came back to their senses as if they had been greatly humiliated. They said, "Who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have to educate us? In front of our Appa, you are just a pile of cow dung." The sneer on Park Si-hoon's lips deepened as he crossed his arms and looked at this scene with interest. He started to chat with the woman beside him in Galilee as if there was no one else around. The woman also looked at Tang Zheng and the girls mockingly, covering her mouth and sneering. Tang Zheng didn't understand what they were saying, but he guessed that it wasn't anything good. He coldly swept his gaze over the two. The two actually raised their heads arrogantly and looked at Tang Zheng provocatively. Fang Shishir walked over and said, "Tang Zheng, they're saying nasty things." Fang Shishir was a straight-A student since she was young, so she knew a thing or two about Korean. Thus, she could understand the conversation between the two. Sure enough, Tang Zheng said before he asked, "What did they say?" They said that Hwaseong is indeed a lowly race that only knows how to fight amongst themselves, and that they can't even compare to a 10,000th of the Korean race. Fang Shishir said indignantly. She rarely got angry, but when she heard those words, she was so angry that her voice started to tremble. Those words were like a fuse that ignited the suppressed anger in the crowd. They all roared, Koreans, how dare you come to our country and scold us? Get out of our country." A trace of panic flashed through Park Si-hoon's eyes, but he quickly calmed down and regained his arrogance. The woman beside him immediately put on a straight face and said in fluent Huaxia language, "That's slander. We didn't say those words. Move aside, we still have to report." Tang Zheng and Fang Shishir did not move. A trace of viciousness flashed through the woman's eyes as she shouted in Korean. The bodyguards immediately moved and tried to grab Tang Zheng. Fang Shishir couldn't help but make the first move. Her fair hand grabbed onto the bodyguard's wrist and pushed, causing the bodyguard's arm to bounce back. Bang! The bodyguard hand hit his chest, and he was sent flying back like a cannonball, knocking into the bodyguards behind him and causing them to fall to the ground together in a sorry state. Ah! The crowd immediately cried out in alarm. No one had expected that the seemingly weak and powerless Fang Shishir would actually have such great strength. Yi Dingdang, who was already filled with righteous indignation, also made a move. However, she didn't aim at the bodyguards, but at the boy on the ground. The girls blocked her way. Yi Dingdang shouted, "Are you worthy of being Huaxia people?" Slap, slap, slap. The girls were slapped in the face. They spun around like spinning tops before falling to the ground. The boy was humiliated. Suddenly, he saw a vigorous and valiant beauty rushing over. For a moment, he seemed to have forgotten the pain. There was only this figure left in his eyes. Even many years later, this figure would often reverberate in his mind. "How are you?" Yi Dingdang helped the boy up and saw that his ankle was swollen. The boy was dumbfounded. He looked at Yi Dingdang with a red face and was speechless. "Is it very painful?" "Yes." The boy finally woke up from his dream. He sucked in a breath of cold air and heavily nodded. "Don't worry. With us here, this group of bullies won't be able to escape," Yi Dingdang resolutely said. The boy hesitantly nodded. "Tang Zheng, how's his injury?" Yi Dingdang shouted. Tang Zheng walked over. This time, no one stopped him. He bent down to check the injury. He frowned and said, "It's dislocated. Bear with it for a while. I'll set your bone right now. It'll be fine in a moment." Oh, the boy was a bit confused and didn't know what to do. Just at this time, he suddenly felt a piercing pain. He wanted to scream, but he found that a warm feeling wrapped around the injury, and the pain immediately disappeared. Why don't you try it now? The boy seemed to wake up from a dream as he blankly looked at his leg. The place that was swollen just now had actually recovered. He was incredulous as he couldn't believe his eyes. He stammered, "This what's going on?" As he spoke, he moved his legs and tried to walk 2 steps with Yi Dingdang's help. "It doesn't hurt anymore." The boy cheered. He turned his head to look at Yi Dingdang, but found that she was still holding his shoulder. Immediately, his cheeks flushed red and his eyes became flustered. He didn't know what to do. When the other boys saw this scene, they all cried out in their hearts, "Brat, why are you so lucky? Let me do it. I'll suffer a little and get to enjoy this treatment." Yi Dingdang casually let go of her hand and said, "It's good that you can walk." When she finished speaking, she turned around and walked towards Park Shihun and coldly said, "We should deal with him now." Fang Shishir blocked the path of the Koreans, but they did not force their way in. Park Shihun looked at Fang Shishir with interest. Her clean move just now was an eye-opener for him. His heart was moved. This girl was both beautiful and skilled. Wasn't she my type? Thus, he revealed a smile that once charmed thousands of fans and said to Fang Shishir, "Beauty, my name is Park Shihun. Can we be friends?" Fang Shishir looked at him with disgust and said, "A person like you is not fit to be my friend." "Great." The crowd immediately cheered. "Beauty, well done. A heroine among women. A heroine." That woman finally couldn't hold it in and reprimanded. "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to our Park Shihun with such an ugly face? He's our national idol. TSK, are you blind? She's 100 times prettier than you." Right, a man-made beauty who has undergone plastic surgery. She still doesn't know how troubled she is and dares to come out and make a fool of herself. "Meiji, don't lower yourself to their level," Park Shihun said arrogantly. "Right, how can I, Jean Meiji, lower myself to their level? Wouldn't that lower my own level? Shihun, let's go and report first. Don't let these people delay our work," Jean Meiji urged. "I'll remember you," Park Shihun said, to Fang Shi. "Stop! Are you guys deaf?" Tang Zheng stood in front of them and asked with an unfriendly expression. Park Shi was amiable towards Fang Shi, but not towards Tang Zheng. He waved his hand in disgust and said, "Get out of the way." The other two bodyguards' fists simultaneously struck towards Tang Zheng's chest. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with an ominous glint as he struck out with lightning speed. Gotcha! The two bodyguards' arms were immediately broken, revealing eerie white bones. Screams immediately burst out from their lungs and throat and soared into the sky. When the others saw this, their hearts trembled, but they felt relieved. These people from different races dared to behave atrociously. This was what they deserved. Among them, those who had seen Tang Zheng deal with the island nation students had their eyes lit up. They knew that there was a good show to watch. This group of Koreans didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They actually dared to provoke Tang Zheng. This time, they really couldn't bear the consequences. Seeing that the galley people were unlucky, they all felt proud and elated. In an instant, they had a backbone and looked at Tang Zheng with burning eyes. Park Shi looked at Tang Zheng in astonishment. He couldn't see through Tang Zheng's strength, so he was surprised by his skills. However, he thought highly of himself and didn't put Tang Zheng in his eyes. He looked at him with contempt and said, "I recently learned a new idiom from your huaxia. Bring shame upon yourself. You're bringing shame upon yourself right now. How can a foreigner like you understand the profound huaxia language? How dare you use this idiom so shamelessly?" "Humph, since you brought it up, then I'll let you understand the essence of this idiom." Tang Zheng approached the other party step by step. "Shi, teach him a lesson. Let him know how powerful you are." Jin Meiji instigated. Park Shi sneered and walked over. He stretched his body and said, "You asked for it." Before he finished speaking, he sent a kick towards Tang Zheng. Clearly, he wanted to gain the initiative by striking first. As expected of a 9th-degree black belt, Tang Zheng also sent out a kick as fast as lightning. Pa! Chapter 1029. A heart-wrenching scream filled the air as Park Shi-hun's face made contact with the ground. 2 streams of blood spurted out from his nostrils, making him look battered and exhausted. Good. It was unknown who cheered, but immediately cheers and shouts of praise rose and fell one after another. Clearly, Park Shi-hun's actions earlier had aroused public anger. The few girls who were clamoring earlier no longer dared to shout. Instead, they glared at the crowd with eyes that seemed to be spitting fire. It was as if they were enemies who killed their fathers. Tang Zheng's impassioned speech did not touch their hearts in the slightest. They continued to do as they pleased. Jin Meiji stared blankly at the scene. This had never happened before. In the past, when they came to Huaxia, they were always welcomed with open arms. Initially, they were at a loss for what to do, but later they got used to it. No matter what they did, the Huaxia people would still treat them like gods. They were even more important than their ancestors and parents. In the beginning, they were very careful as they were afraid of offending the huge Huaxia market. However, they later realized that their worries were unnecessary. No matter what mistakes they made, they were still unique and cool in the eyes of the fans. If anyone dared to make irresponsible remarks, the fans would gang up on them without them needing to say anything. Their vulgar words were unbearable to the ears, causing them to avoid them as if they were rabid dogs. After enjoying this kind of treatment a few times, they felt that the Huaxia market was too good. It was tailor-made for them. It was even better than Korea. That was why they were so arrogant and bossy. This was something they did not dare to do in China, but they could do it openly in Huaxia. However, everything was overturned today. Someone actually hit Park Shi in front of everyone. Wasn't this overturning the heavens? What was Park Shi doing at Yenching University? This was the right to study abroad exchange that he had fought for. In order to expand the Huaxia market, artists had no choice but to learn the Huaxia culture. Especially learning a few sentences of Huaxia language was very necessary. If they spoke a few sentences of stiff Huaxia language during a concert or program, it would win waves of screams from the fans, as if it was a climax. But to be beaten up before he even entered the school was simply too vile. Jean Meiji was not afraid, only angry. She rushed toward Tang Zheng without any scruples, baring her fangs and brandishing her claws as if she was crazy. She was Park Si-hoon's manager. In fact, she used to be a Huaxia citizen as well. After she migrated to Korea, she considered herself to be a Korean. She even hated it when people said that she used to be a Huaxia citizen. You still dare to act crazy? There's no need for Tang Zheng to deal with a woman. Watch how I, Ding Dang, teach you how to be a woman today. Yi Ding Dang shouted and stopped Jean Meiji, giving her a slap. She spun around, and before she could regain her balance, Yi Ding Dang gave her another slap, causing her to spin around again. She was dumbfounded. Didn't women fight by grabbing hair and tearing clothes? Why didn't she play by the rules? It wasn't that Jean Meiji had not fought with women before, but she had never encountered such a situation. She stood there dumbfounded, with her cheeks turning red like a monkey's butt. Yi Ding Dang pursed her lips. You dare to make a scene in Huaxia and Yinqing University with such little ability? Do you really think that the entire universe is Korea's backyard? Wah! Jean Meiji's tears flowed out of her eyes as she began to wail like a child. She pointed at Yi Ding Dang and roared while choking with sobs. You guys are dead. I will sue you. Just wait and go to jail. Tang Zheng looked at her mockingly and said, Jail? What a joke. Is the law set by your family? This is not the last century where foreigners are superior, especially a small country like Korea, which has never been treated this way. Jean Meiji was speechless. Park Si-hoon finally woke up from the pain and looked at his deformed leg. His eyes were bloodshot and he roared, My leg is broken. You have to go to jail. Hurry up and inform the embassy to arrest them. Hearing this, the crowd pointed in disgust animatedly. How shameless. You can't win, and you want to inform the embassy? Where's the arrogance you had when you bumped into people just now? That's right. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong. How dare you bully our fellow countrymen? We can't compromise. Down with the Korean Bangzi. Get out of Huaxia, Korean Bangzi. The crowd was stirred up. These people had endured for too long. They had seen too much of the ugliness and arrogance of this group of so-called stars. They had long been dissatisfied with them. They just lacked a fuse. As for those brainless fans, after all, they were only a minority among the more than 1 billion people in the vast Huaxia. Most people in Huaxia had a tolerant heart and chose to tolerate their usual behavior. However, the anger and dissatisfaction in their hearts had accumulated to a critical point. Most people had a healthy personality and moral values. They angrily rebuked Park Si-hoon and his group for their immoral behavior, especially when many people dug up his past misdeeds. The students who did not know the cause and effect and did not pay attention to them were filled with righteous indignation. Back then, when they faced the Japanese of the island nation, they had never been so aggrieved. Each and every one of the iron-blooded men went to the battlefield to kill the enemy and fought bravely for the motherland. Now that the country was flourishing, they had become an inferior nation. No matter who it was, any foreigner dared to commit crimes in Huaxia without being punished. Catch him and send him back to his country. This kind of person does not deserve to stay in our motherland. Yes, catch him and send him out. Looking at the agitated faces, Park Si-hoon raised his head as if he was humiliated. He shouted, I'm an international student invited by Yinqing University. What do you have to send me away? International student of Yinqing University? The crowd was stunned for a moment before they burst out in even louder voices. Yinqing University does not need a student like you. That's an insult to our century-old university. Get out of our university. Otherwise, I won't be able to say that I'm from Yinqing University. Yes, get out of our university. Yinqing University does not need a student like you. Park Si-hoon was stunned. He did not expect that not only did his argument not make them stop, it made them even angrier. What was going on? Why was it so different from what he had seen before? At this moment, a group of security guards walked over from the crowd. The leader was a middle-aged man. "What are you doing?" the man asked with a solemn face. Jean Meiji acted as if she had seen her savior. Ignoring the pain on her face, she grabbed the man's hand and said excitedly, "Vice Principal Pang, you came at the right time. Today, our Shihun Appa came to report to school, but we encountered this group of lawless and arrogant people. Look at how badly we were beaten up. Even Appa's leg was broken. Hurry up and catch them and throw them in jail." Vice Principal Pang was shocked. His face was as dark as the sky before a storm. He looked around and asked sternly, "Who is so cruel to do this to an international friend?" No one answered him. Instead, they looked at him with ridicule. Some people began to whisper among themselves. "Who is this person?" That woman called him vice principal. "I don't think there's such a person in our university. You're ignorant. I'm in the student union. I've heard that there will be a vice principal this semester. I heard that he's a returnee from overseas." "Then this is bad. A new official sweeps clean. Won't Tang Jung be punished?" Vice Principal Pang was pleased with himself when he heard the discussions. He had just been appointed, and he had indeed made drastic changes. If he didn't punish the chicken to warn the monkey, who would be afraid of him in the future? Vice Principal Pang studied abroad in Korea for many years. Later on, he became a teacher in a high school in Korea and rapidly rose to the position of vice principal. Initially, he had never thought of returning to China, but now that he saw Huaxiao rising up, he was tempted. After all, a small country like Korea was not as good as China, and his development potential was limited. Therefore, through various connections and various operations, he finally managed to get the position of vice principal of Yinjing University after a lot of effort. He was the one who invited Park Si-hoon. As his first action, he hoped to use Park Si-hoon's influence to attract more young people to apply to Yinjing University. He wanted to use this opportunity to expand his influence in Yinjing University. He was delayed by some matters today, so he was a little late to welcome Park Si-hoon. He never expected that something like this would happen. Naturally, he was shocked and furious. How dare someone hit someone he invited? Wasn't this a slap to his face? How could he tolerate this? He had to punish the chicken to warn the monkey. Wasn't this just a chicken? Who hit him? Come out. Vice Principal Pang roared with his hands on his waist and his belly bulging. "I hit him." Tang Jung took a step forward and said indifferently. He didn't take a new principle to heart. Moreover, everything was about reason. These Koreans were clearly in the wrong, so why should he be afraid of them? Vice Principal Pang was arrogant as he coldly looked at Tang Jung and said, "You don't have the slightest bit of remorse for hitting someone, and you're still so arrogant. Which class are you from?" "I'm a second-year student of Yinqing University's Archaeology Department, Tang Jung." Tang Jung replied without batting an eyelid. "Archaeology Department? Second year? How arrogant. How did Yinqing University produce a student like you? Do you know what kind of behavior this is? I just beat up a few self-righteous Koreans who dare to not treat Chinese people as people on Chinese soil." Since the other party was not prepared to speak properly, Tang Jung did not hesitate to retaliate. "Audacious! You're slandering an international friend and tarnishing the country's image. Can you bear this responsibility?" Vice Principal Pang had seen his fair share of storms and did not place Tang Jung in his eyes at all. Even though the other was indifferent, in his heart, as long as he flipped out and put a big hat on the other, he would teach the other a lesson. Then the other would definitely be uneasy and kneel down to beg for mercy. Tang Jung flung his lips and snorted. "You think you're worthy of mentioning the country's image?" Chapter 10:30. Vice Principal Pang's face turned red as he roared. "You're Tang Jung, right? Not only did you disregard the law, but you also dare to talk back to me. As the vice principal, I can tell you right now that Yinqing University doesn't need students like you." Tang Jung sneered. "Is that so?" "Yes. Yinqing University doesn't need students like you who disregard the law, disrespect, and violence. Just you wait to be expelled. Vice Principal Pang's voice became louder and louder. It was even a little shrill. It seemed that this was the only way to show off his power. I also hit someone. Expel me too. Fang Shishir stepped forward and stood beside Tang Zheng. Her face was full of anger. Seeing her beloved being wronged, one could imagine the anger in her heart. I also hit someone. Expel me if you dare. If you don't expel me, you're a coward. Yidingdang's small face was red from anger. She wanted nothing more than to punch Vice Principal Pang in the face. Vice Principal Pang was dazzled by the two beauties who stepped forward. They were too beautiful. If it were any other time, he would definitely hold their hands and teach them. However, Yidingdang's clamor put him in an awkward position. If he didn't expel them, he would be a coward. He didn't want to be called a coward on his first day as a new official. He was about to passionately reprimand them to let them know their mistakes. However, he didn't expect someone to come out of the crowd. The person's body was as tall as a mountain. He shouted angrily, I also hit someone. Expel me too. Tang Zheng turned his head and looked. It was his second brother, Sinosaurus. Sinosaurus and the others were also welcoming the new students. When they heard the commotion, they ran over and happened to see this scene. Blood rushed to his head, and he didn't hesitate to stand up for his brother. Vice Principal Pang looked at Sinosaurus in shock. Don't be funny. You clearly squeezed in from the back. How could you be the one who hit someone? Before he could figure out the situation, he saw two people squeezing in. Wang Shiji and Zhou Yan had a tacit understanding and said in unison, I also hit someone. You should fire me too. Vice Principal Pang's face darkened. He finally understood that these people were in cahoots with Tang Zheng. They were here to kick up a fuss and embarrass him. Who was Vice Principal Pang? How could such a scene scare him? Therefore, he said in a deep voice, All right, since you've admitted it, then wait for the school's punishment. Yinqing University doesn't need students like you. As soon as his voice fell, a few more people squeezed in, but they were all beautiful girls. Each of them was like a fearless warrior, standing behind Tang Zheng without hesitation, and said in a loud and resonant voice, I also hit people. You should fire me too. Tang Zheng looked at them gratefully. They were Yi Dingdong's roommates. The few of them nodded encouragingly at Tang Zheng. His actions today had won their respect and recognition. Vice Principal Pang was at a loss. Just who was this brat? Why did so many people stand out for him? These people must be in cahoots. That's why they're so united. If it was anyone else, they would definitely admit defeat. But I've seen all sorts of storms. You guys are too inexperienced to play such tricks in front of me. Vice Principal Pang snorted in disdain. All right, since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wishes. Vice Principal Pang roared majestically. He felt as if he was an ancient emperor who ruled over the life and death of others. It felt great. The other students looked at each other with red eyes. Even the girls stood out for injustice. Could it be that they, as grown men, were not as brave as the girls? The students clenched their fists. Suddenly, a person took a few steps forward and stood behind Tang Zheng. He said fearlessly, I also hit people. You should fire me too. Vice Principal Pang was stunned. He stared at the fearless fellow with a murderous gaze and said in his heart, I'll fulfill your wishes. But before he could say anything, he saw students one by one walk behind Tang Zheng, loudly shouting, I also hit people. You should also expel me. The crowd was stirred up, and their voices rose and fell one after another. This was the most sincere expression of emotion as a student and instinctive support, but often many people would scoff at it and disdain it. But seeing hundreds of people working together to support Tang Zheng, one would know who was right and who was wrong, and what was the will of the people. When the new students reported in, there were many parents accompanying them. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but feel excited. It was as if they had returned to their youthful days. The edges and corners that had been worn away by life over the years seemed to have grown back. With a red face, they said to their children, Do you see? This is the spirit of a university. Learn from your seniors. Many of the new students were boiling with passion. They threw down their suitcases and rushed behind Tang Zheng. They shouted, I also hit people. You should fire me too. When the parents saw their children's actions, they didn't blame them. Instead, they revealed gratified expressions. Most Huaxia people had such genes and blood in their bones. They just needed an opportunity to trigger it. There was no doubt that this accidental incident had become a trigger, arousing their long-hidden hot blood. Vice Principal Pang was dumbfounded. He looked at the scene in disbelief. He never expected the students to be so united. This kind of strength made his heart tremble. He felt a long-lost fear. However, he immediately suppressed this absurd thought. His face darkened, and he thought to himself, fanning the flames, these students can't be allowed to stay. The law doesn't punish the majority of the people. As long as I tell them the pros and cons, these people will naturally know to be afraid. But he couldn't see the people behind him. His voice couldn't be heard. Suddenly, he had an idea. Suddenly, he saw the Mercedes-Benz and quickly climbed up to the roof of the car. Looking down at the crowd, he waved his hand and shouted, "Quiet, everyone be quiet. Listen to me. I know that most of you are good students. Don't be fooled by a bad student. This is irresponsible to yourself and to your parents. Everyone disperse. We were not bewitched by others. We have our own judgment and sense of right and wrong. We are doing this to be responsible for ourselves and our parents." Someone refuted loudly. "That's right. I make my own decisions. It's not up to you to tell me what to do. Get lost. Yenching University doesn't need a leader like you." That's right. This kind of leader is the shame of Yenching University. He's helping outsiders to suppress his own students. Shameless. Vice Principal Pang panicked when he heard the complaints. Things seemed to be out of his control. Why do you have to be so high and mighty? Why do you have to tell us what to do? You're nothing. You don't have a right. The students were even angrier when they saw him looking down at them. Suddenly, a loud and clear voice sounded. "Rise up, people who don't want to be slaves." The voice ignited everyone's emotions. It was as if they had returned to the Huaxia era. Everyone's eyes were red. They looked at Vice Principal Pang as if he was an invader. "Rise up, rise up, rise up. We're united, braving the enemy's gunfire. Advance, 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 advance." The voice seemed to come from the chest and heart. It was filled with endless power. It made people's blood boil and tears filled their eyes. Every time the last 3 lines of advance was sung, all the students took a step forward. The uniform footsteps were like the sound of iron hooves, trampling on Vice Principal Pang's heart, making his heartstrings tremble and his face turn pale. The Korean people were scared out of their wits. The overwhelming momentum and the loud and clear voice made them see the spirit of the Huaxia people. It was the soul of the Huaxia people. Park Shi-hoon didn't have time to care about his pain. He quickly hid in the car and didn't dare to show his face. The arrogance he had just now was gone. What was left was deep shock and fear. The few of them huddled together and looked at each other while trembling. Vice Principal Pang's face turned pale. He didn't expect the students in China to be so powerful. Listening to the deafening voice, he felt as if thousands of knives were falling on his head. He suddenly had an ominous feeling. It seemed that things weren't as simple as he thought. Looking at the high and mighty Vice Principal Pang, the students' emotions once again reached a peak. One of them yelled, "You're standing so high up. Do you think you're so high and mighty? And those Korean people, do you think everything will be fine after they hide in the car? Smash the car and drag them out." Everyone echoed, "Yes, smash their car and drag them out. Let's see how they're going to act all high and mighty." Hundreds of people rushed toward the 2 luxury cars. Bang! Everyone picked up their tools and smashed them on the car. The glass shattered and the car was dented. It looked like the surface of a moon. Vice Principal Pang stood on the roof of the car. He was still in shock. He felt like he was a small boat in the middle of the ocean that could be overturned by the waves at any time. At this time, he didn't have the energy to rebuke. Even the security guards were scared. They kept retreating and didn't dare to stop them. Vice Principal Pang scrambled down from the roof and hid in the security guard's encirclement. He trembled in anger and fear as he watched the scene. "Come out. Are you a coward? Hiding in the car? Park Sherhoon and the rest hid in the car. They didn't dare to come out. If you don't want to come out, then drag them out and smash the car door. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of the car door knocking was like knocking on their hearts. They were scared to the extreme and huddled together. Without a doubt, this would be a nightmare that would follow them for the rest of their lives. Let me do it. Chapter 1031. Park Sherhoon and the rest were dragged out of the car. Then, huge fists rained down on them. They only had time to clench their fists and huddle together. They were no longer as arrogant as before. Seeing this, Vice Principal Pang was so scared that he shouted, "Run!" He tried to leave this place under the protection of the security guards. However, the eyes of the crowd were sharp. Immediately, someone shouted, "Don't let him escape." Sinosaurus dashed forward and pushed the security guards away. He grabbed Vice Principal Pang's collar and flung him back. He immediately fell into the sea of people. Ah! Screams were heard immediately. *MBR Tang Zheng did not expect things to turn out this way, but he did not stop them immediately. They asked for it. If they had not angered the crowd, they would not have ended up like this. Stop hitting them! Stop hitting them! The commotion finally attracted the attention of the principal. He brought a group of security guards and stopped them from afar. The students were still in awe of the principal. They stopped after a few more punches. They were rescued from encirclement in a sorry state. Park Sehun's face was bruised and bruised. He no longer looked like a celebrity. Vice Principal Pang also took a lot of punches. His face was swollen like a pig's. The principal almost could not recognize him. The principal did not question them like the vice principal. Instead, he tried to understand the cause and effect of the incident. He knew that his students were not thugs. There must be a reason for this. After knowing the cause and effect of the incident, the principal glared at Vice Principal Pang fiercely. Then, he comforted the students gently. Finally, he left with a few of them, leaving behind the two wrecked cars. The students immediately cheered as if they had won a big battle. Recalling the scene just now, everyone's blood was still boiling. Everyone's gaze towards Tang Zheng became more and more complicated. He was the catalyst for this matter, and if he was not the first to stand out, it would not have stirred up everyone's emotions and caused them to stand out one after another. Everyone gradually realized that unity was strength, and the reactionaries were paper tigers. As long as everyone was united, they could crush them in minutes. Vice Principal Pang walked away, relieved that he had survived. He sucked in a breath of cold air and said fiercely, "Principal, we must arrest that Tang Zheng. He's the instigator. A black sheep like him can't be allowed to stay in the school. Otherwise, he'll be a big disaster for our school. He's a ticking time bomb that can explode at any time." Vice Principal Pang talked nonstop, as if he was going to list Tang Zheng's heinous crimes. He shouted himself hoarse, exaggerating as much as he could. "That's enough." The principal shouted, his face frosty. This incident had caused a huge uproar. Furthermore, it happened during the welcoming ceremony of the new students. With so many parents present, the impact was extremely bad. He had just suppressed the anger in his heart, but that didn't mean that he wasn't angry. This was the first time such a situation had happened in the 100 years since the founding of the school. It was a disgrace to the school. Looking at the pig-headed Vice Principal Pang, he couldn't help but feel regret. He should have resisted the pressure from the higher-ups and rejected this *T stir. He hadn't been in office for long, yet he had already caused such a thing. He really didn't know if he was an idiot or not. Seeing that the principal didn't say a word, Vice Principal Pang was angry and resentful. He continued, "Principal, we can't just let this go. I know that your words of comfort just now were just a temporary measure. Let's discuss the next step. We must teach these lawless students a lesson. Those leaders must be caught and punished by law. We must make an example out of them and teach them a good lesson." The principal finally stopped and looked at Vice Principal Pang with an unkind expression. "What do you want? Expel Tang Zheng and punish the rest of the black sheep. Expel? Ha ha!" The principal laughed mockingly. Vice Principal Pang was confused by this laugh. He asked, "What do you think, Principal? I spent a lot of effort to get Tang Zheng here, and you want to expel him with just a few words? Are you out of your mind?" Then again, the principal was shrewd and naturally wouldn't be so blunt. Thus, he faintly said, "You don't have to worry about this matter. Furthermore, that Park Si-hoon is too lacking. He didn't even ask about it after bumping into someone. His arrogance will affect the reputation of our Yenching University. Principal, I spent a lot of effort to get him here. He has a huge influence. Furthermore, this matter must be a misunderstanding. He's actually a gentle and humble person." Vice Principal Pang was shocked and immediately tried to defend himself. The principal briefly hesitated before he glanced at Vice Principal Pang. "Don't do it again. If he does something bad again, then our school will not welcome a black sheep like him." Vice Principal Pang was dumbfounded. Why was the principal so strict? Wasn't this just throwing his face? But after all, they were the principal and vice principal. Even if it was throwing his face, there was nothing he could say. Thus, he could only grit his teeth and swallow it. Vice Principal Pang resentfully left. Looking at his departing figure, the principal dryly laughed. This overseas returnee really doesn't know anything about the situation in the country. Who is Tang Zheng? Is he someone you can afford to offend? Tang Zheng's emotions calmed down. On the other hand, his friends were in high spirits as they chatted among themselves. They came to a restaurant outside the school in high spirits. The tickets for Tang Linger's concert are very popular. Many people in our school were the first to buy tickets online, but later on, there were no tickets to buy at all. I heard that they could only buy tickets at a high price. Sinosaurus said with a face of disappointment. Zhou Yin thought for a while and said, "I'll think of a way to see if I can get a few tickets, but I don't dare to make any guarantees." "We want to see it too." The other girls joined in the fun. "There are so many beautiful girls at the concert. We can't let you boys go alone. Otherwise, those girls will be too dangerous." Zhou Yin had a difficult expression on his face. "Now that the tickets are so tight, I can't guarantee that I can get so many tickets." "OL3, are you going?" Sinosaurus asked. "Speaking of which, you and Tang Linger are both surnamed Tang. 500 years ago, you were even a family." Yi Dingdang and Fong Shishir looked at each other. Yi Dingdang was about to speak, but was stopped by Fong Shishir with her eyes. The relationship between Tang Zheng and Tang Linger was not known to many people, so there was no need to make it public. Yi Dingdang swallowed her words. Tang Zheng coughed dryly and said, "I'll think of a way." The others' eyes lit up as they asked, "OL3, you have a way?" "Maybe, I'll do my best." Tang Zheng did not know if there were still tickets for the concert, so he could only call Linger later to ask. "Haha, that's great. OL3's methods are wild, so he definitely has a way." The excitement of the few of them was beyond words. "OL3, let me tell you, Tang Linger is very beautiful, just like Ding Dang and Shir. They're all great beauties, just different types." Sinosaurus's eyes lit up as he introduced. "Aren't we great beauties too?" The other girls glared at him, scaring Sinosaurus so much that he shrank his neck and quickly tried to salvage the situation. "Of course you're beautiful. You're like fairies descending to the mortal world." These words really go against my heart. The few of them rolled their eyes. After lunch, the few of them immediately threw themselves into the work of welcoming the new students. Tang Zheng attracted the attention of countless people. Many people pointed at him from afar or gave him a thumbs up. Among them, there was no lack of new female students who had witnessed the scene. They frequently cast flirtatious glances at Tang Zheng. Ding Ling Ling. Chapter 1032. It was Du Qifeng who called him. "Mr. Du, what's the matter?" Hearing Du Qifeng's anxious voice, Tang Zheng went straight to the point. "Mr. Tang, I wouldn't have bothered you if it wasn't so urgent," Du Qifeng said in fear and trepidation. Tang Zheng nodded secretly and asked, "The king of medicine should have gone to your house. How is your wife?" "That's why I'm calling. Alas, I can't explain it clearly in a few words. Let the senior king of medicine explain it to you." Du Qifeng sighed and said wearily, "Master." The king of medicine's voice came. Tang Zheng had been used to this cheap apprentice's name. He asked, "King of medicine, what's the problem?" "Master, Mrs. Du's condition is very strange. I've controlled her condition after taking medicine, but it flared up again the next day, and then it became more and more serious. The medicine didn't work at all." The king of medicine's voice was a little low. He was very interested in difficult and complicated diseases, and he had conquered many difficult and complicated diseases. However, the situation this time made him a little confused, so he had to call Tang Zheng for help. "Oh!" Tang Zheng's head sank. If the king of medicine couldn't do anything, then what kind of strange disease did Mrs. Du have? "Master, I don't know what to do. Can you come here?" The king of medicine found it difficult to speak, and he was a little ashamed. Hearing this, Tang Zheng's curiosity was aroused. He asked, "My treatment skills are not as good as yours. If you can't do anything, I may not be able to do anything." "Master, Madame Du doesn't seem to be sick." The medicine king stuttered, hesitating to speak. Tang Zheng moved his head and frowned. He asked, "If she doesn't seem to be sick, then what is it?" "I don't know, but it's a little similar to the folklore about being possessed by evil spirits. I'm not sure. After all, there's no scientific basis for this kind of thing, and I've never seen it before." The king of medicine's voice also lowered, as if he was not confident in his judgment. Tang Zheng was a cultivator. He knew very well that not everything in the world could be explained by current scientific knowledge. Being possessed by evil spirits was not something that was fabricated out of thin air. The phone was transferred to Du Qifeng again. Du Qifeng anxiously begged, "Young Master Tang, I know this is too much, but for the sake of my wife's life, I really beg you. You're my last hope." Tang Zheng had thought that the king of medicine would be able to cure him, but now it seemed that he was too optimistic. Moreover, Du Qifeng had helped him before, so he couldn't stay out of this matter no matter what. Now that school had just started, there was not much to do, so he could take the opportunity to go to Du Qifeng's house. "Okay, send me the detailed address. I'll be there today." Du Qifeng was overjoyed and said gratefully, "Thank you, young Master Tang. Thank you so much." "I'll book a plane ticket for you right away." "You don't have to book a plane ticket. I have a way to get there." Tang Zheng declined Du Qifeng's kindness. Since he could fly freely on his sword, he realized more and more the convenience of flying on his sword. It was faster than taking a plane, and he didn't have to wait for a plane. He could stop and go as he pleased. Du Qifeng didn't get to the bottom of it and quickly told him the address. His house was in Shanghai, which was not too far from Beijing. It would take nearly 2 hours by plane. Tang Zheng estimated that he could get there in more than an hour. He didn't leave in a hurry, but dialed Ling Er's phone first. The girl was very excited when she received the call from Tang Zheng. She jumped up and said, "Master, you finally called Ling Er." "Ling Er, are you tired from the concert rehearsals?" Tang Zheng asked with concern. "I'm tired, but after receiving Master's call, Ling Er is not tired at all. I'm full of energy again," Ling Er said excitedly. "If you're tired, then rest. Don't tire yourself out, okay?" Yes, Ling Er knows." "Ling Er, do you still have tickets for your concert?" "Tickets? I don't know. I'll ask." After saying that, her voice came from the phone. "Sister Amy, do you still have tickets for my concert?" "My lady, the tickets for your concert are selling like hotcakes. The tickets online have long been sold out," Amy said happily. Ling Er's mouth flattened and said, "Is there no other way? Do you have a friend who needs tickets?" "Master does." Amy quivered and quickly said, "Yes, of course." What a joke. If her boss doesn't have tickets, then she doesn't need to work anymore. Ling Er beamed with joy. "Thank you, Sister Amy. Master, I still have tickets." The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth raised as he gave a knowing smile and said, "I heard it. Just remember to leave me a few. When the time comes, I will go to your concert." "Really?" Ling Er was surprised and happy. "Master, don't worry. Ling Er will practice harder. I won't disappoint Master." Tang Zheng said a few more words of concern and hung up the phone. He said goodbye to his family and went to the suburbs. He flew to Shanghai on his sword. After passing through the thick clouds, Shanghai was right below him. He landed in the suburbs. He took a taxi and went straight to Du Chifeng's house. This was a seaside villa area. The scenery was very charming. When Du Chifeng received Tang Zhang's call, he was very surprised because it had only been an hour since he called. Even a plane wouldn't be that fast. Could it be that Tang Zheng was already here? When he saw Tang Zheng standing in front of him alive, he couldn't help but feel deeply shocked. He couldn't believe his eyes and asked, "Young Master Tang, how did you get here so quickly?" Tang Zheng didn't answer and asked, "Where is the patient?" Du Chifeng woke up from his dream and felt a little more confident. Tang Zheng's methods were more powerful than he thought. Then wouldn't his wife have a greater chance of being saved? "Young Master Tang, please come with me." Du Chifeng led Tang Zheng into the villa area and to his house. The king of medicine was already waiting at the door. He greeted him from distance, grabbed Tang Zheng's hand, shook it a few times excitedly, and said, "Master, you're finally here. It's good that you're here." Looking at the king of medicine's excited look and the two words "master" that came out of his mouth, Du Chifeng thought that he was dreaming. Although he was mentally prepared when he called before, he still couldn't hide the shock in his heart when he saw this scene with his own eyes. This was mainly because the king of medicine's position in the apricot forest was too high. No one could surpass him. Now seeing him call Tang Zheng master sincerely, no matter who it was, they would have the same feeling in their hearts. "Thank you for your hard work." Tang Zheng nodded to the king of medicine. He personally contacted the king of medicine some time ago and told him about Du Chifeng. That was why he came to Shanghai. Otherwise, with Du Chifeng's reputation, he couldn't even see the king of medicine. It's not hard. The king of medicine quickly shook his head and said bitterly, "I'm ashamed. I originally thought that the medicine would cure the disease, but I didn't expect it to be so different from what I imagined. Until now, I still haven't determined what disease she has." This was a situation he had never encountered before. Naturally, he was very distressed. "Let's go see the patient first." Tang Zheng recalled that Qin Baishan's wife had been possessed by the evil spirit in the Millennium Blood Jade, so he wasn't too worried. "Young Master Tang, king of medicine, please come in." Du Chifeng came to his senses and quickly opened the door. He respectfully invited them in and went straight to his wife's room. After pushing the door and entering, Tang Zheng saw a person standing in front of the windowsill. When she heard the sound, she turned her head. It was the face of a middle-aged woman. She was well-maintained and full of charm. She glanced at Tang Zheng lightly and said to Du Chifeng, "Chifeng, who is this?" Tang Zheng frowned. This person looked no different from a normal person. She didn't seem to be possessed. "Let me introduce you. This is young Master Tang, and this is my wife." Du Chifeng quickly introduced them. Tang Zheng nodded slightly. "Mrs. Du, nice to meet you." Madame Du responded politely. Tang Zheng glanced at Mrs. Du suspiciously, but still couldn't find any clues. He couldn't help but look at Du Chifeng and the king of medicine. "Mrs. Du, you should rest first." Du Chifeng closed the door and whispered to Tang Zheng, "Young Master Tang, when she's not ill, she's no different from a normal person. Once she's ill." His face became a little pale, and he glanced at the king of medicine. Senior king of medicine has seen it. "It's really strange. What kind of evil technique is this?" Du Chifeng thought for a while and organized his words. "It's as if she's a different person. It's a strange feeling. I've lived with her for decades, so I know it very well. I've never had that strange feeling, except when she's ill." The king of medicine also nodded. "I thought it was a split personality, but later it was confirmed that it wasn't. That's why I suspect that she's possessed." Du Chifeng's face was pale, and he asked, "Young Master Tang, is there any way?" Tang Zheng didn't express his opinion, but asked, "When will she be ill?" "At night." Tang Zheng looked out of the window. It was still a few hours away from night. It seemed that they had to wait. "Can I check now?" "Yes, thank you so much, young Master Tang," Du Chifeng said excitedly. They entered the room again. Mrs. Du was still standing quietly in front of the window, overlooking the blue sea in the distance. "Mrs. Du, please sit down. Let me feel your pulse," Tang Zheng said. Mrs. Du turned around and said calmly, "Sorry to trouble you." Tang Zheng deeply looked at her, 2 fingers pressed down on her wrist. Her pulse was very strong, but Tang Zheng knew very little about the pulse, so he could not determine if there was a problem. So he urged his true qi, and a trace of true qi flowed from her wrist, along her meridians, into her body. Now Tang Zheng's control of genuine qi had reached the peak, so he didn't have to worry that the genuine qi would hurt the patient as before. Even the patient herself wouldn't notice anything strange with the trace of genuine qi. This was a big advantage of his increasingly excellent skills. Seeing him feel her pulse, Du Qifeng's heart was in his throat. He didn't know what the result would be. Chapter 1033. Tang Zheng let go of his hand, his eyebrows tightly knitted together. Mrs. Du looked at him with a bitter smile and said, "Young Master Tang, is there any cure for my illness?" Tang Zheng stared at her and shook his head slightly. It's too early to say. He found that the vitality in her body was very weak, but he couldn't find the root of the illness. A touch of disappointment flashed in Du Qifeng's eyes. "Young Master Tang, please go to rest first. We'll try again in the evening." They left the room. Tang Zheng and the King of Medicine went back to the room. The King of Medicine asked curiously, "Master, did you find anything?" Tang Zheng shook his head. The King of Medicine's face became strange. Even Tang Zheng didn't find anything. This illness was really strange. Night fell. They had dinner and waited for the moment when Mrs. Du had an attack. Tang Zheng sat opposite her and didn't miss any chance to observe. The moonlight shone on the bed and fell on Mrs. Du's body. Suddenly, a strange scene happened. A touch of darkness flashed in Mrs. Du's eyes. Her breath suddenly changed and became very cold and horrible. Her face was ferocious. "Well, her illness seems to have changed," the King of Medicine exclaimed. "Why do you say that? She used to tremble all over when she had an attack, as if she had epilepsy. But this time she seemed very calm. Except for the change in her complexion and breath, there were no other symptoms." The King of Medicine said, puzzled. Tang Zheng shook his head. "I'm afraid this is a sign that her illness is getting worse. Mrs. Du, let me feel your pulse again." Whoosh! Seeing Tang Zheng's hand reaching out, Mrs. Du suddenly stepped back and dodged. Her reaction was so fast that even Tang Zheng didn't expect it. It didn't match her weak appearance at all. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a bright light as he stared at her. Du Qifeng hurried to persuade her. "Mrs. Du, let young Master Tang feel your pulse and treat you." Bang! Once he finished his words, Du Qifeng was pushed away by Madame Du's palm. Du Qifeng's tall and sturdy body flew out like a piece of paper and heavily hid against the wall. "Madam, you—" Du Qifeng clutched his chest and gasped for breath, looking at his madam in disbelief. Madame Du's eyes flashed with a cold light as she coldly glanced at Du Qifeng. Then, she stared at Tang Zheng with an unkind expression. Her voice changed quite a bit as it became the voice of another woman. It was very sharp and gave people a feeling of fear. "Who are you?" Tang Zheng stared at her and asked. "Who are you?" "You don't have the right to ask for my name," Madame Du said arrogantly. Du Qifeng and the King of Medicine were dumbfounded when they heard the conversation between the two. It was as if they were two completely different people. "Madam, what's wrong with you?" Du Qifeng turned pale with fright. Ignoring the pain, he threw himself at Madame Du. Tang Zheng hurriedly stopped him and advised, "Mr. Du, calm down. Let me deal with her." The King of Medicine was dumbfounded and said resentfully, "Possessed. She really is possessed. It is her good fortune that I am possessing her body. What do you ignorant people know?" Madame Du was proud of herself, and her entire body was exuding evil energy. "Let me catch you first." Tang Zheng reached out his big hand and rushed to her. Madame Du flew back, tiptoed on the wall, flipped in the air, and threw herself at Tang Zheng. Bang, bang, bang. In a flash, the two exchanged several moves. However, Tang Jing's fighting ability was much stronger. Madame Du had a strong momentum at first, but in the blink of an eye, she could only retreat. Bang! Tang Jing put one hand on her shoulder and immediately restrained her. She tried to resist and screamed. Tang Jing was unmoved. He activated his true qi and immediately sent it into her body. A cold and ruthless aura instantly came back from his true qi. His eyes lit up. He thought, I finally found you. It turned out that there was a soul hidden in Madame Du's body. It was very hidden during the day, and even Tang Jing couldn't find it. But at night, when Yin Qi was strong, she would show up. Tang Jing had seen Tian Chanzi do the possession and rebirth with his own eyes. However, he possessed a dead body, while this guy in front of him came for a living person. There is a world of difference between the two actions. This kind of forceful possession of another person's body was very bad. Tang Jing couldn't do anything about it. Moreover, there were so few cultivators today. It was rare to find someone who had the ability to possess and rebirth. This was because, according to the Heaven Monk, one had to be above the nascent soul stage in order to be able to possess a body and be reborn. Furthermore, there were very few people above the nascent soul stage in this world. So who was this person? He had to find out. Who are you? How dare you be so rude to me? Madame Du screamed at the top of her voice. She stared at Tang Jing angrily, as if she wanted to eat him alive. Tang Jing wasn't afraid at all. He activated his genuine qi and immediately found the culprit in Madame Du's brain. This soul was hidden in the depth of her brain. It was a cloud of black gas. He could vaguely see a ferocious face hidden in the black gas. The ferocious face was opening its mouth and roaring. It seemed that it wanted to scare Tang Jing away. Who are you? Tang Jing asked. You're not qualified to know my name. Really? Then I'll destroy your soul. Tang Jing used his genuine qi to stab the cloud of black gas like a sword. The other party immediately shrank back, but it didn't help. Her voice became more and more shrill, as if she was suffering endless pain. Seeing this scene, Du Qifeng's heart trembled. He wanted to persuade her, but was stopped by the king of medicine in time. Director Du, if you want to save your wife, don't disturb my master. Du Qifeng was resentful. He was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, spinning around in circles. I'll talk. Mrs. Du seemed to be unable to endure the torture and finally compromised. I escaped from the prehistoric heavenly tomb. Prehistoric heavenly tomb? Tang Jing was shocked. What does this have to do with the prehistoric heavenly tomb? After the restrictions of the prehistoric heavenly tomb were completely broken, many of the creatures or magic treasure that were imprisoned in the prehistoric heavenly tomb took the opportunity to leave that damned place and regain their freedom. What? Tang Jing was shocked. He was actually one of the people who knew about this matter. Back then, in order to regain his freedom, the 100 Transformation Star Lord had broken through the restrictions of the Buzhou Mountain, which was equivalent to breaking through all the restrictions of the prehistoric heavenly tomb. That was why the Thundercloud Beast was able to leave the prehistoric heavenly tomb as it pleased. However, the side effect was that without the restrictions, any living being could leave the prehistoric heavenly tomb. Back then, Tian Chanzi and the others had personally seen tens of thousands of rays of light soaring into the sky. Tian Chanzi had once said that those rays of light were countless magic treasure or Yin generals. In any case, they were living beings imprisoned in the prehistoric heavenly tomb. The people buried in the prehistoric heavenly tomb were all experts from the ancient era. Due to that restriction, the souls of these people did not enter the cycle of reincarnation, but were instead imprisoned in the prehistoric heavenly tomb. After tens of thousands of years, these souls interacted with the Yin Qi, and in the end, many of them became Yin generals. They lost their nature and became bloodthirsty people. Back then, Tang Jing had met this kind of Yin general. Other than that, there were also magic treasurettes. The mountain-shattering meteor hammer that Sinosaurus had coincidentally obtained was one of them. It was just that Tang Zheng did not pay too much attention to this matter in the past, and had almost forgotten about it. This was because, other than Sinosaurus, there was no other similar news. Now it seemed that he was too optimistic. In fact, many changes had already happened, but they were hidden under a calm appearance, confusing his eyes. Now it seemed that the one attached to Mrs. Du's body was in general. The other party called himself this seat, so it seemed that he had not completely lost his life. All of this was because of him. If he had not barged into the Buzhou Mountain, the Hunter Transformation Star-Lord would not have broken through the restrictions and released so many living beings. Mrs. Du would naturally not have become like this. As a result, he was duty-bound. It seems like the situation with Mrs. Du and second brother is not an exception. I need to find other people in similar situations. Some people are in danger, and some people might have obtained some benefits and gone into hiding. If not for Du Qifeng finding him by chance, the Mrs. Du would definitely have been reborn and become a cultivator in hiding. Of course, there were also some people who would obtain some magic treasures. If they were able to survive, they would naturally become cultivators. Currently, they had not heard of the situation. It seemed that they were all very smart. Before they completely understood the current situation of the society, they did not dare to act rashly. Perhaps they had already made a move, but Tang Zheng had not discovered it yet. Maybe one of the people who usually brushed past him was a spy. When he thought of this, his heart felt as if it was pressed down by a 10,000-kilogram boulder, incomparably heavy. This was really looking for a needle in a haystack. There was no definite target at all. It was even more difficult than dealing with a High Lord. Seeing his expression become extremely ugly, Du Qifeng finally could not hold it in and asked anxiously, "Young Master Tang, how is the situation?" "Don't worry, I can cure her." Tang Zheng regained his senses and stared at Mrs. Du. "Since you came from the prehistoric heavenly tomb, then I will take you in and get rid of evil for the people." "How dare you?" Mrs. Du cried out sharply. "Humph. Not to mention that you are an insignificant in general. Even if you're a powerful character, I am not afraid in the slightest. You cannot threaten me in front of me," Tang Zheng said coldly. Just as he was about to cast a spell to destroy the other party's soul, he suddenly had a thought and changed his mind. "This matter started because of me. There are so many living beings. If I were to destroy their souls one by one, wouldn't that be a great sin? The Ksitigarbha Sutra emphasizes compassion, so I should also have a compassionate heart. Why don't I learn from Dizong of Goguryeo and convert them, which could be considered merit?" Without a doubt, in order to suppress the Asura, he recited the Ksitigarbha Sutra every day. The effect on himself could not be underestimated, and his state of mind had undergone quite a bit of change. He had experienced too many massacres, and there was a lot of evil in his heart. After reciting the Ksitigarbha Sutra every day, the evil in his heart gradually decreased, and his state of mind became much calmer. Of course, this was an imperceptible change that even he himself did not notice. Mrs. Du seemed to be a little afraid, and understood that she was not his match. Seeing that he was about to make a move, she hurriedly begged for mercy. "Please let me go. I will never do this again." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.